On my 68th birthday, my daughter Sasha handed me a small matte black box with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. She told me it was a pair of high-end earbuds so I could listen to my jazz records while I worked at the warehouse. She said she wanted me to feel connected. 5 days later, I stood by the window of my living room and watched as a tactical police unit kicked down her front door. I watched them drag her and her husband out in handcuffs while neighbors filmed the entire disgrace on their phones. She screamed for me to help her. She begged her daddy to save her. I did not move. I simply tapped the pocket of my work shirt where those earbuds sat and whispered, "I heard everything." My name is Arthur Banks and I am 68 years old. Most people look at me and see a tired old black man working a part-time job managing inventory at a logistics warehouse. They see the grease under my fingernails and my 10-year-old truck, and they assume I am just trying to scrape by until my Social Security kicks in. They assume I am slow. They assume I am behind the times. They assume I am vulnerable. My daughter and her husband Hunter certainly did. They made the mistake of confusing my silence for senility and my frugality for poverty. What they did not know was that before I retired, I was the lead mechanical engineer for one of the largest infrastructure firms in the state. I did not just build bridges, I designed the stress tests that ensured they would not collapse under pressure. I understand how things work. I understand structures, and I understand when a load is too heavy to bear. I also understand money. I have 3 rental properties held in a blind trust and a portfolio of blue-chip stocks I started buying in 1982. I do not work at the warehouse because I need the money. I work there because it keeps my mind sharp and my body moving. But to my family, I am just poor old Art who needs to be managed. Before I tell you how a simple birthday gift turned into a federal crime investigation, please tell me in the comments where you are watching from. If you have ever had a family member smile in your face while holding a knife behind their back, hit that like button and subscribe. You are not alone, and you need to know how to fight back. The night it started was humid, and the air in Sasha's dining room felt stagnant. It was my birthday dinner. The table was set with expensive china that I knew they could not afford. Hunter, my son-in-law, was pouring wine with a heavy hand. He is a tall man with a smile that looks practiced in a mirror. He works as a financial consultant, which as far as I can tell means he spends all day looking at screens and losing other people's money. Hunter filled my glass to the brim and clapped a hand on my shoulder. It was heavy and condescending. He squeezed a little too hard. 68 years, young Arthur, he said, his voice booming in the quiet room. That is a big number. How are you feeling these days? Really feeling? I took a sip of the wine. It was bitter. I feel fine, Hunter. My back aches when it rains, but my mind is clear. Hunter exchanged a look with Sasha. It was a quick glance, but I caught it. I have spent my life reading blueprints and spotting microscopic fractures in steel. I know how to spot a crack in a facade. That is good. Arthur, really good. Hunter continued, sitting down. But you know, at your age, things can change fast. Memory slips, confusion. We just want to make sure you are prepared. Have you thought any more about that power of attorney we discussed last Christmas? Just in case you start forgetting where you put your keys. I cut a piece of the dry chicken on my plate. My keys are on the hook by the door, Hunter. Same place they have been since 1995. And my affairs are in order. Sasha cleared her throat. She looked nervous. She kept twisting her napkin around her finger. Daddy, we are just worried. You live alone in that big old house. The neighborhood is changing. We just want you to be safe. Safe. That was the word they always used when they wanted control. Then came the gift. Sasha reached under the table and pulled out a sleek box wrapped in silver paper. Happy birthday, Daddy, she said. Her voice wavered slightly. I opened it. Inside sat a pair of wireless earbuds. They looked expensive. Too expensive for a couple who I knew had just refinanced their mortgage for the second time. Hunter leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a predatory intensity. These are the top of the line, Arthur. Noise cancellation, high fidelity. But the best part is the safety features. They connect right to your phone. Sasha and I can check in on you. Make sure you have not fallen. I looked at the small black devices. They felt cold in my hand. I prefer my old record player, I said. I do not need these. Hunter's smile tightened. Nonsense. You need to get with the times. Here, give me your phone. I will set them up for you. It was not a request. He held out his hand, expectant. I hesitated. I carry an older smartphone, one that fits in my pocket and makes calls. I do not use it for banking. I do not use it for social media. But I handed it over. I wanted to see what he would do. Hunter snatched the phone and started tapping furiously. Sasha moved her chair closer to him, watching the screen over his shoulder. I need your passcode, Arthur, Hunter said without looking up. 1955, I said. The year I was born. He punched it in. Then he pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. It had a QR code on it. He scanned it with my phone. What is that? I asked. My voice was calm, but my pulse was rising. Just the companion app, Hunter said quickly. It helps the earbuds sync. It optimizes the audio for your hearing profile. Since your hearing is probably fading a bit. I watched his fingers. He was not just installing an app, he was going through the permission settings. I saw him toggle switches. Microphone access, location services, always on, background data usage, unrestricted. He was granting this app permission to do everything short of breathing for me. There, Hunter said, handing the phone back. He looked triumphant. Now you have to promise me something, Arthur. You have to wear them, especially when you are at the warehouse, and keep the Bluetooth on. It is for your safety. If you fall, the app alerts us. Sasha reached out and touched my hand. Please, Daddy, do it for my peace of mind. I worry about you working in that place with all those heavy boxes. I looked at my daughter. She looked thin, tired. There was a desperation in her eyes that had nothing to do with my safety. She was scared of something, or someone. I put the earbuds in the case and slipped them into my shirt pocket. Thank you, Sasha. It is a very generous gift. The rest of the dinner was a blur of uncomfortable small talk. Hunter kept steering the conversation back to my house. He asked if I had updated the deed. He asked if I had checked the current market value. He mentioned a friend of his who specialized in reverse mortgages for seniors. I ate my dry chicken and gave vague answers. I played the part they expected. The slow old man, the simple worker, the father who was losing a step. When I finally stood up to leave, the relief on their faces was insulting. Hunter walked me to the door. Do not forget Arthur, he said, looming over me in the doorway. Keep them charged. Keep them connected. We will be checking. I walked to my truck and climbed in. The silence of the cabin felt like a sanctuary. I drove home, taking the long route through the park just to clear my head. When I got to my house, I did not turn on the lights immediately. I sat in my favorite armchair in the dark and took the earbuds out of my pocket. I placed them on the coffee table. I am an engineer. I know how consumer electronics work. I know that when a Bluetooth device is disconnected from the phone, it should go into standby mode. The lights should turn off to save battery. I had turned my phone's Bluetooth off the moment I got in my truck. But as I sat there in the darkness of my living room staring at the gift from my daughter, I saw it. A tiny light on the side of the right earbud. It wasn't the steady blue of a connection. It wasn't the slow white pulse of a charging cycle. It was red, and it was blinking. Blink, pause, blink, pause, blink. It was a rhythm I recognized. It was searching. It was transmitting. My phone was off. My Wi-Fi router was unplugged. I do that every night out of habit. So what was it connecting to? I leaned closer. In the silence of the room, I could hear a faint, high-pitched whine coming from the device. Most people my age would have lost the frequency range to hear it, but I have protected my ears my whole life. It was the sound of a processor working hard. Hunter had said it was a companion app. He said it was for safety. He said it was to detect falls. But safety devices do not transmit data when they are disconnected. Safety devices do not have a dedicated cellular chip independent of the phone. I picked up the earbud. It was warm, warmer than it should be. A cold knot formed in my stomach. This was not a gift. This was a leash. I thought about the way Hunter had seized my phone, the way he had forced the permissions, the way he had insisted I wear them at work. They did not want me to listen to music. They wanted to listen to me. I stood up and went to the window. I looked out at the street. A black sedan was parked 2 houses down. It was too far to see the license plate, but I knew my neighbor's cars. That car did not belong here. I looked back at the blinking red light. My daughter had given me a wiretap for my birthday. I felt a wave of nausea. Then I felt a wave of rage. But I pushed the rage down. Rage makes you sloppy. Rage makes you loud. And right now I needed to be quiet. If they wanted to listen, I would let them listen. But they were not going to hear what they expected. I put the earbuds back in the case, but I did not close the lid. I left them on the table. Then I walked into my kitchen and poured a glass of water. I spoke out loud to the empty room. My voice was shaky. I made sure it sounded old and confused. "Where did I put that paper?" I muttered. "The one with the bank account numbers. I need to call the bank tomorrow. I think I forgot the password again." I paused. I waited. Back in the living room, the red light blinked faster. The trap was set. But they were the ones who were going to step into it. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I needed to know exactly what this device was and what it was sending. And I knew exactly who could tell me. I grabbed the earbuds, I put them in my pocket, and I went to work. But I wasn't just going to the warehouse to count boxes. I was going to see Joe Gunner. And once Joe saw what I was carrying, everything was going to change. Because my son-in-law thought he was playing a game with a senile old man. He didn't know he had just declared war on a man who built things that lasted forever. And I was about to dismantle his life brick by brick. The warehouse was a cavern of steel and concrete that smelled of diesel fumes and cardboard dust. Forklifts beeped in a chaotic rhythm that would have driven a lesser man insane. For me, it was just another Tuesday. I clocked in at 7. I pulled my heavy work gloves on. And against my better judgment, I put the black earbuds in my ears. I had to test the range. I had to know if they were transmitting from inside this steel cage. If the signal cut out here, I would know they relied on cellular data. If they kept transmitting, I would know they were using something much more sophisticated. I walked the floor holding a clipboard pretending to count pallets of imported electronics. But my mind was miles away. I was thinking about the blinking red light I had seen in my living room. I was thinking about the way Hunter had looked at me when he handed me the phone, like a wolf looking at a particularly slow sheep. "Hey, Art." The voice was gravel and smoke. I turned around. Joe Gunner stood there leaning against a stack of crates. Joe is 65, but looks 50. He did 3 tours in the Marines, recon, intelligence. He doesn't talk about it much, but I know he still scans every room he walks into. He still checks the exits. And he knows more about surveillance than the local police department combined. He wasn't looking at my face. He was staring at my ears. His expression was not friendly. It was the look of a man who just spotted a tripwire. "Take those out, Art. Now." His voice was low, urgent. It cut through the warehouse noise like a knife. I paused. "Why, Joe?" "They are just a birthday gift from my daughter." "Do not lie to me." Joe stepped closer. He invaded my personal space. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small black device that looked like a radio scanner. He flipped a switch. A row of orange lights on the device lit up instantly. The needle on the gauge slammed all the way to the right. "You are broadcasting, Art. You are lighting up the whole damn spectrum. Take them out before I rip them out." I took them out. I held them in my palm. The tiny red light was pulsing, frantic. Joe grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the back of the warehouse. We went into the old maintenance cage. It is a room lined with chain-link fencing and filled with dead batteries and broken tools. It is the only place in the building where the Wi-Fi signal dies completely. He snatched the earbuds from my hand. He dropped them into a thick silver bag he pulled from his cargo pants. A Faraday bag. He sealed it tight. The scanner in his other hand immediately went silent. The orange lights vanished. "Who gave you those?" Joe asked. His eyes were hard. "My daughter, Sasha, and her husband." Joe let out a short, bitter laugh. He paced the small cage. "That is not consumer tech, Art. That is not something you buy at an electronics store. That is a ghost unit." I frowned. "What is a ghost unit?" "It is a modified listening device. It has a dedicated cellular chip. It does not need your phone. It has its own power source. It has its own uplink. But that is not the worst part." He tapped the silver bag. "It is not just transmitting audio, it is harvesting." "Harvesting what?" "Biometrics." Joe stopped pacing. He looked me dead in the eye. "It is scanning the vibrations in your jawbone. It is mapping the frequency of your vocal cords. It is recording your breathing patterns. These things are designed to feed data into a deepfake AI. They do not just want to hear what you are saying. They want to become you." I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands went cold. Voice authentication. I said the words out loud and the pieces of the puzzle slammed together with the force of a hammer. Hunter had been asking about my memory. He had been asking about power of attorney. But those were just distractions. They were the long game. This device was the shortcut. They did not need me to sign checks if they could call the bank and speak with my voice. They did not need my permission to transfer funds if an AI could replicate my speech patterns perfectly enough to fool a biometric security system. And they had a reason to target me, a reason nobody else knew. To the world, I am Arthur Banks, the warehouse worker. I drive a dented Ford F-150. I wear work boots that I have resold 3 times. I eat sandwiches for lunch. But in 1982, I took $10,000 I had saved from my first engineering contract and I bought stock. I bought Apple when everyone said it was a toy company. I bought Microsoft when people thought computers were a fad. I bought into Amazon when it was just a bookstore. I never sold. I just let it grow. I reinvested the dividends. I bought real estate in neighborhoods that were blighted then and are gentrified now. I hold it all in a blind trust managed by a firm 3 states away. My net worth is north of $4 million. Sasha does not know that. Hunter does not know that. They think the house is my only asset. They think my pension is my only income. But Hunter is a financial consultant. He sniffs out money. He must have found a trail. Maybe a piece of mail I missed. Maybe a dividend statement I didn't shred properly. He knew there was something there. He just couldn't access it. Until now. If they cloned my voice, they could call the brokerage firm. They could authorize transfers. They could liquidate 40 years of disciplined saving in 40 minutes. Joe was watching me. He saw the realization hit. You are holding something art. Something big. People do not use this kind of gear to steal a few $100 from a checking account. This is heavy duty. This is felony level. I looked at the silver bag on the workbench. My anger was gone. It had been replaced by a cold, terrifying clarity. They think I am senile, Joe. They think I am a confused old man who forgets his passwords. Joe scoffed. They picked the wrong Marine. I held out my hand. Give them back. Joe stared at me. Are you crazy? You put those back in your ears and you are handing them the keys to your life. We should smash them right now. We should put them under the hydraulic press. No. I kept my hand steady. If we destroy them, they will know I found them. They will know I am onto them. They will panic. And when rats panic, they bite. They will try something else. Something clumsy. Something violent. I need them to feel safe. I need them to think they are winning. Joe narrowed his eyes. He is a tactician. He understood. You want to feed them. I want to feed them garbage. I want to tell them exactly what they want to hear. I want to give them a map that leads straight off a cliff. Joe grinned. It was a sharp, dangerous grin. Disinformation. I like it. But you have to be careful, Art, if you slip up. If you say one real thing, they will use it. I won't slip up. I looked at the bag. Joe opened it. He took the earbuds out. The red light was blinking furiously, searching for a signal. I picked them up. They felt heavy now, weighted with treason. I put the left one in my ear. I put the right one in my ear. Joe watched the scanner in his hand. The needle jumped back into the red. You are live, Art. You are on stage. I nodded. I straightened my back. I adjusted my work shirt. Let's get back to work, Gunner. I said, my voice loud and clear. I need to finish this shift. I have to call my lawyer later. I think I finally found that old insurance policy I was looking for. The big one. I saw Joe's eyes widen. He understood the game immediately. He nodded and put the scanner away. Yeah, Art. You should definitely find that. That could be worth a fortune. I walked out of the cage and back onto the warehouse floor. The noise of the machinery washed over me. Hunter and Sasha were listening. Somewhere in a dark room, they were huddled over a computer watching the waveforms of my voice. They were analyzing my pitch. They were salivating over the data. They wanted to hear an old man losing his grip. They wanted to hear a victim. Instead, they were going to hear a story. A story I was going to write line by line just for them. A story about a secret fortune that was just within their reach. A fortune that would tempt them out of the shadows and into the light where I could crush them. I walked toward the loading dock. My heart was cold ice in my chest. They wanted my voice. Fine, I would give them a voice that would scream their names in a federal courtroom. I touched the earbud again. Can you hear me now, Hunter? Listen close. You are not going to want to miss this. I drove home from the warehouse with the earbuds burning a hole in my shirt pocket. The weight of them felt different now. This morning, they were just plastic and silicone. Now, they were a weapon. They were a direct line to the people who wanted to destroy me. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck for a moment. I watched the curtains of my living room window. I knew the house was empty, but it felt crowded. It felt occupied by invisible ghosts. I walked inside and locked the door. I did not turn on the television. I did not turn on the radio. I wanted the silence to be absolute. I wanted the audio feed to be crystal clear. I walked to the kitchen table and took the black case out of my pocket. I opened the lid. The tiny red LED on the right earbud pulsed. It was a heartbeat. A hungry electronic heartbeat waiting to be fed. I went to the refrigerator and poured a glass of water. I made sure to let the ice cubes clink loudly against the glass. I wanted them to know I was there. I wanted them to adjust their volume. I wanted them leaning in. I sat down at the table. I placed my old landline phone in front of me. It was a sturdy beige unit that I had owned for 20 years. It had a dial tone that sounded like an anchor. I picked up the receiver. I held the hook down with my thumb so the line remained dead. There was no one on the other end. I was about to give the performance of my life to an audience of 2. I cleared my throat. I pitched my voice slightly higher. I added a tremor that wasn't there before. I summoned the old man they thought I was. "Hello?" I said into the dead receiver. "Yes. Is this the office of Mr. Evans?" I paused. I counted to 5 in my head. I imagined a secretary transferring the call. "Hello, Mr. Evans. This is Arthur Banks." "Yes." "Arthur, it has been a long time." I paused again. I took a sip of water. The red light on the earbud seemed to blink faster. They were listening. I knew Hunter was somewhere hunched over a laptop with headphones on, pressing the cans against his ears. I knew Sasha was standing behind him, biting her lip. "I received your letter today," I continued. "About the policy. The one from 1998. I thought that expired years ago." I let my voice rise in excitement. I let a little bit of hope creep in. It was the bait. "What do you mean it matured?" I asked. I grabbed a pen and scratched it against a notepad on the table. The sound would be sharp and distinct on their end. I needed them to hear me writing. $500,000. I said the number slowly. I savored every syllable. I let it hang in the air like smoke. 500,000. Are you sure? That is a lot of money, Mr. Evans. I did not know Martha had that kind of coverage. I sniffled. A fake tear for a real wife. Martha would have hated this. She hated lies. But she would have hated what her son was doing even more. Yes. Yes, I understand. I need to come in to sign the release forms. No, I have not told anyone. You know how it is. I do not want to worry the children. They have their own lives. I paused one last time. I let the silence stretch until it was uncomfortable. Thursday. Yes. Thursday morning is good. I will bring my identification. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you. This changes everything. I hung up the phone. The click of the receiver hitting the cradle echoed in the kitchen. I sat there for a long time. I stared at the earbuds. I wondered if they were high-fiving. I wondered if Hunter was already calculating how to spend $500,000 that did not exist. I wondered if Sasha felt any guilt knowing she was robbing a ghost. I stood up and walked to the living room. I picked up a book, but I did not read it. I watched the clock. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. At 6:15, headlights swept across my front window. I stood up and went to the curtain. I peeked through the gap. Hunter's silver SUV was pulling into my driveway. They were early. They were eager. Usually I had to beg them to visit. Usually I had to guilt them into coming over for a holiday meal. Tonight they were here before the sun went down. I sat back down in my armchair. I waited for the doorbell. I forced my body to relax. I forced my hands to stop making fists. The doorbell rang. It was a cheerful, insistent sound. I walked to the door and opened it. Sasha stood there holding 2 large paper bags from the expensive steakhouse downtown. The smell of grilled meat and garlic butter wafted into the hallway. Hunter stood behind her holding a bottle of bourbon, not the cheap stuff he usually brought. This was the good stuff. The bottle with the wax seal. "Daddy," Sasha exclaimed. "We were just in the neighborhood and thought we would surprise you. We brought dinner." She pushed past me before I could answer. She was vibrating with energy. Her eyes were bright, too bright. Hunter stepped inside and kicked the door shut. "Hey, Arthur, good to see you. You are looking well, really well." He pumped my hand. His grip was sweaty. He was nervous. Greed does that to amateurs. It makes them jittery. I played my part. I looked confused. I looked pleasantly surprised. "Well, this is a treat," I said. "What is the occasion? Is it your anniversary?" Hunter laughed. It was a loud barking sound. "No occasion, Arthur. Do we need an occasion to see our favorite patriarch? We just felt bad about running off so quickly after your birthday dinner. We wanted to make it up to you." They moved into the kitchen. They took over. Sasha started unpacking the bags. Ribeye steaks, loaded baked potatoes, asparagus with hollandaise sauce. It was a feast. It was a bribe. Hunter cracked the seal on the bourbon and poured 2 heavy glasses. He handed one to me. "Here is to family Arthur. To good health and good fortune." He clinked his glass against mine. He watched me drink. He was analyzing me. He was looking for signs that I was hiding a secret. He had no idea I was the one analyzing him. We sat down to eat. The food was delicious. I ate with gusto. I let them watch me enjoy it. I wanted them to think I was a simple man easily pleased by a hot meal and a stiff drink. The conversation was sporadic. They talked about the weather. They talked about the traffic. They talked about everything except the elephant in the room. They were waiting for me to spill the secret. They wanted me to tell them about the money, but I kept my mouth shut. I chewed my steak. I complimented the potatoes. I watched Hunter getting impatient. He kept checking his watch. He kept tapping his foot under the table. He was a man who had already spent the money in his head, and he wanted to cash the check. Sasha tried a different approach. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "So, Daddy, how was your day? Did you do anything interesting?" "Just work," I said, wiping my mouth with a napkin. "Inventory counts. Dull stuff. My back is killing me." Hunter leaned forward. His eyes narrowed. Nothing else. No interesting calls. No news. I looked him dead in the eye. "What kind of news, Hunter?" He froze. He realized he was pushing too hard. He retreated. "You know, just news. World news, local gossip. Anything." I shook my head. "No, just a quiet day." I thought about fixing the porch steps, but I got tired. I mostly just sat around. I saw the frustration flash across his face. He knew I was lying. He had heard the call. He had heard me talking to Mr. Evans. He knew about the $500,000. And the fact that I was not telling him was driving him insane. He poured himself another drink. He drank it in one gulp. The alcohol was making him sloppy. It was loosening his tongue. "Arthur," he said, his voice taking on a sharper edge. "You know we are in a bit of a tight spot right now. The market is volatile. My clients are panicking. It is a stressful time." I nodded sympathetically. "That is a shame, Hunter. You should be more careful." He twitched. "Careful is not the issue, Arthur. It is liquidity. We need liquidity. And we were thinking, since we are family, maybe we could help you manage your assets better. You have this big house. You have your pension. There are ways to optimize that." I put my fork down. "I am happy with how things are, Hunter. I have enough to get by." "Enough to get by." Hunter repeated the words with disdain. "Arthur, you could have so much more. You could be living like a king. You just need to trust us." I stood up and carried my plate to the sink. I turned my back to them. I started running the water. "I trust you," I said over the rushing water. "I trust you to do what is right." I heard a chair scrape against the floor. Hunter was standing up. I could feel his heat radiating across the kitchen. "Arthur, look at me." I turned off the water. I turned around. Hunter was red in the face. A vein in his forehead was throbbing. "Why are you lying to us, Arthur?" The room went dead silent. Sasha gasped. She dropped her fork. It clattered loudly against the china. "Hunter," I said, my voice low and steady. "What are you talking about?" Hunter took a step toward me. He pointed a finger at my chest. "We know, Arthur. We know you got good news today. We know something happened. Why are you holding out on us? Do you not trust your own daughter? Do you think we are going to steal it?" He had slipped. He had fallen right off the edge. He had just admitted he knew about information I had only spoken into a dead phone line inside my locked house. I looked at him. I let the confusion melt away from my face. I let him see a glimpse of the engineer, the man who spots the flaw in the design. "What good news, Hunter?" I asked. "I haven't told a soul. How could you possibly know I had good news?" Hunter's mouth opened and closed. He looked at Sasha. She was pale. She looked like she was going to be sick. I just had a feeling," Hunter stammered. "You look happy. You have a glow. I assumed something good happened. A glow." I stepped closer to him. "I am a 68-year-old man who spent 8 hours lifting boxes in a warehouse. I do not glow, Hunter." I sweat. I stared at him until he looked away. "You are acting strange, Hunter," I said. "Maybe you should go home. Maybe you had too much to drink." Hunter glared at me. There was hatred in his eyes now. Naked hatred. He realized he had shown his hand. He realized he had been played, but he could not figure out how. "Fine, we will go. Come on, Sasha." He grabbed Sasha by the arm. He pulled her out of the chair. "We are leaving Arthur, but we will be back. We need to talk about your future. Serious talk." I walked them to the door. I watched them get into the SUV. Hunter slammed the door so hard the vehicle shook. I locked the front door. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood. He had asked me if I had financial news. He had confirmed the wiretap. He had confirmed the greed. But more importantly, he had confirmed that he was desperate. A man does not make a mistake like that unless he is cornered, unless he is terrified. I walked back to the kitchen. The earbuds were still in my pocket. I took them out. The red light was frantic now. They were driving away, but they were still listening. They were probably arguing in the car right now, screaming at each other. I smiled. I walked over to the trash can. I picked up the empty bourbon bottle. I smashed it against the counter. The sound was explosive. Then I screamed, "Get out of my house. Leave me alone. I do not know where the money is. Martha hid it." I waited a beat. Then I whispered loud enough for the microphone to pick it up. "I have to move it. I have to move the cash tonight, before they come back." I dropped the earbuds on the counter next to the broken glass. The trap was not just sprung, it was closing. And tonight I was going to find out exactly how deep the rot went. I went to my study. I needed to call Joe. We had work to do. Because if Hunter was desperate enough to slip up, he was desperate enough to come back. And when he did, I needed to know exactly who he owed and why. The game had just turned dangerous. But I have never been afraid of the dark. Joe Gunner lived in a converted shipping container on the edge of town that looked like a rusted metal box from the outside but felt like a command center on the inside. The air smelled of ozone and stale coffee. Monitors lined one wall displaying cascading lines of code that moved too fast for my eyes to follow. I sat on a metal stool while Joe typed furiously. His fingers danced across a mechanical keyboard that clicked like gunfire. We were hunting. We had the frequency from the earbuds. We had the handshake protocol the device used to connect to its mothership. Now we were following the digital breadcrumbs back to the source. It did not take long. Hunter was arrogant. He had routed the signal through a cheap VPN that Joe cracked in under 3 minutes. "Got him," Joe grunted. "The signal is terminating at a residential IP address in the Heights. Apartment 4B. That was Hunter and Sasha's apartment, the one with the marble countertops and the view they could not afford." Joe hit a few more keys. "I am in his local network. His security is a joke." He left the default admin password on his router. Amateur. On the main screen, a window popped up showing the file directory of Hunter's personal computer. Joe started digging. He bypassed the folders labeled taxes and family photos. He went straight for the hidden partitions. He knew where men like Hunter hid their sins. What he found made my stomach turn. It was not just bad investments. It was a slaughterhouse. Hunter was gambling. But he wasn't playing poker or betting on horses. He was leveraging cryptocurrency on unregulated offshore exchanges. He was betting on margins that would make a Wall Street banker vomit. Joe opened a spreadsheet. The numbers were staggering. He is down $200,000 art, and that is just the principal. Look at the interest rates. These are loan shark numbers. He opened an encrypted messaging app on Hunter's desktop. The messages were recent. They were from a user named Kilo. "Payment past due. You have 48 hours. Another message followed. A picture. It was a photo of a man's hand with the pinky finger severed at the knuckle. "Next time it is your hand," the caption read. I stared at the screen. My son-in-law was not just greedy. He was a dead man walking. He had borrowed money from people who did not send collection letters. They sent butchers. But the next folder Joe opened hurt worse than the threat of violence. It was a chat log between Hunter and my daughter. I read the timestamps. They were from yesterday. Sasha wrote, "Did you get access yet? The lease on the Range Rover is up next week, and I cannot lose that car. The neighbors will talk." Hunter replied, "He is being difficult. The old man is tighter than a bank vault. I am working on it." Sasha wrote, "Work faster. If Kilo comes here, I am not opening the door. You fix this, Hunter. Get the money from him. I do not care how." I closed my eyes. My daughter knew. She knew her husband was in debt to violent criminals. She knew our lives were in danger, and her priority was not my safety. It was not even her husband's safety. It was her car. It was her status. She was willing to feed me to the wolves to keep her lease current. I felt a cold hardness settle over my heart. It was the same feeling I used to get when I inspected a bridge and found structural rot deep in the pylons. There is no fixing rot. You have to condemn the structure. You have to tear it down before it kills someone. Joe looked at me. His face was grim. "You okay, Art?" "I am fine," I said. My voice was steady. "Keep digging. What else do they have?" Joe switched to a different window. This one showed a log of audio files. Hundreds of them. "They have been recording you for days, Art. Not just with the earbuds. Look at this." He played a file. It was my voice. But it wasn't me speaking. It was me reading a list of numbers. It was me saying phrases I had never said. "My mother's maiden name is Williams. Confirm transfer. Authorize payment." It sounded metallic, artificial. "They are training an AI," Joe said. "They are feeding your voice samples into a synthesis engine. They are building a digital puppet of you." He clicked on a log file labeled Bank Access Attempts. The screen filled with red text. Attempt 1. Vanguard Retirement Fund. Voice match confirmed. Access denied. Secondary authentication required. Attempt 2. Chase Savings. Voice match confirmed. Access denied. Two-factor authentication required. Attempt 3. Fidelity Investments. Voice match confirmed. Access denied. Biometric failure. I leaned closer. They had tried. They had used my stolen voice to call my banks. The AI was good enough to fool the voice recognition software. That was terrifying. My voice, my identity, stolen and weaponized. But they had hit a wall. I am a careful man. I spent 40 years in engineering. I know that redundancy saves lives. When I set up my accounts, I did not just rely on passwords. I set up two-factor authentication. I set up security questions that only I knew the answers to. I set up text alerts to a burner phone I keep in a safe deposit box. They could sound like me, but they could not be me. They were locked out. Joe let out a low whistle. "You got lucky, Art. They were seconds away from draining you dry. If you didn't have 2FA enabled, you would be a pauper right now." "It wasn't luck," I said. "It was design." I looked at the screen. The log showed the attempt stopped 3 hours ago, right before they came to my house for dinner. That explains the visit. That explains the stake. That explains the desperation. The AI failed. The technology failed. They realized they could not steal the money remotely. They needed something else. They needed me. They needed me to physically unlock the accounts, or they needed me to give them the codes. Joe tapped the screen. "Look at the last search query Hunter made." I looked. It was a legal search. Emergency guardianship procedure, state of Georgia. How to declare a parent mentally incompetent. Power of attorney for dementia patients. The pieces clicked into place. The final girder into the bridge of their betrayal. They were done trying to hack me. Now they were going to hack the legal system. They were going to paint me as senile. They were going to use my age against me. They would drag me before a judge, claim I was losing my mind, and get a court order to take control of my assets for my own protection. And once they had that power of attorney, they wouldn't need my voice. They would just need a pen. I stood up. The metal stool scraped against the floor. Joe looked at me. "What do you want to do, Art? We can take this to the cops right now. We have the logs. We have the threats." "No," I said. "Not yet. The police will see a family dispute. They will see a son-in-law with gambling debts and a daughter with expensive taste. They won't see the intent to harm until it is too late. Hunter is desperate. He is scared. He has 48 hours to pay $200,000 or lose a hand. I walked to the door of the container and looked out at the night. He is going to escalate, I said. He tried technology. It failed. He tried charm. It failed. Now he is going to try force. He is going to try to break me. Joe stood up and cracked his knuckles. Let him try. I will park outside your house tonight. Anyone comes near you, they deal with me. No, Joe. I need you here. I need you to keep monitoring. I need you to record everything. Every keystroke. Every message. I need a mountain of evidence so high they can never climb over it. I turned back to him. I am going home. I am going to put those earbuds back in, and I am going to let them think they are winning. Joe looked doubtful. Art, this guy is cornered. Cornered animals are dangerous. I know, I said, but I know something he doesn't. What is that? I know he is running out of time. And when people run out of time, they make mistakes. I am going to push him. I am going to make him think I am losing my mind. I am going to play the part of the confused old man so well he will think he has already won. And then when he reaches for the prize, I am going to snap the trap shut. I left Joe's bunker and drove back to my quiet house. I parked the truck. I walked inside. The red light on the earbuds was still blinking on the kitchen counter. I picked them up. I put them in my ears. I walked into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I saw the gray hair, the lines on my face, the tired eyes. I could see why they underestimated me. I looked like a relic. But underneath the skin, I was steel. I tapped the earbud. I started muttering to myself, "Where is it? Where did I put the safe key? I know it was here." Martha said she put it in the blue box. No, the red box. I cannot remember. My head hurts. I let my voice tremble. I let panic seep into my tone. I knew Hunter was listening. I knew he was gripping his headphones, praying for a clue. I was giving him exactly what he needed to hang himself. Tomorrow, the gaslighting would begin. I knew their playbook. They would try to make me doubt my reality. They would move things. They would change times. They would use my own voice against me. Let them come. I am Arthur Banks. I built the foundation this city stands on. And I was about to show my family what happens when you try to demolish a load-bearing wall. The sun rose on Wednesday morning with a pale gray light that offered no warmth. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my black coffee. The house was quiet, but I knew the silence was deceptive. The air felt heavy. It felt charged with the kind of static electricity that precedes a lightning strike. I had spent the night waiting. I knew they were desperate. I knew they had failed to access the bank accounts. Now they were going to try to break the lock itself. They were going to try to break me. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages. That was the first sign. When people are planning an ambush, they go radio silent right before the attack. At 9 o'clock sharp, a heavy knock rattled my front door. It wasn't the polite knock of a visitor. It was the pounding of someone who believes they have the right to enter. I shuffled to the door. I let my shoulders slump. I unbuttoned the top button of my flannel shirt to look disheveled. I opened the door. Sasha stood there. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her mascara was smeared artfully under her lower lashes. She looked like a woman on the edge of a nervous breakdown. Hunter stood behind her wearing a dark suit that looked too tight across the shoulders. He held a leather briefcase in one hand and a travel mug in the other. His face was a mask of grim determination. Daddy, Sasha choked out. She pushed past me into the hallway. The smell of her expensive perfume filled the air, instantly masking the scent of my old house. I looked at her. Sasha, what is wrong? Why are you crying? She spun around. Her hands were shaking. She held up her smartphone. You do not remember, do you? You honestly do not remember. Remember what, Sasha? I kept my voice raspy, confused. She tapped the screen of her phone. She hit play. A voice filled the hallway. It was a deep baritone. It had the gravel of age and the cadence of the South Side. It was my voice, but it was not me. Listen to me, doctor. The spiders are under the skin. You have to cut them out. I need the scalpel. Bring me the scalpel or I will burn the clinic down. The recording stopped. I stared at the phone. The technology was impressive. The pitch was perfect. The inflection was mine. But there was a flatness to it. a lack of breath between the words. To a stranger, it sounded like a man losing his mind. To me, it sounded like a mathematical equation solved for the variable of fear. Sasha sobbed. "That was you, Daddy. You called Dr. Sterling at 3 in the morning. You left that on his voicemail. His answering service called us in a panic. They wanted to call the police. We had to beg them not to." I leaned against the wall. I put a hand to my forehead. I did not make that call, Sasha. I was asleep. She swiped the screen. She hit play again. "Mrs. Gable, I know you stole my newspaper. I am watching you. I am watching your cats. I put poison in the milk. You better lock your doors." Mrs. Gable is my neighbor. She is 80 years old and brings me cinnamon rolls on Sundays. Sasha screamed. Mrs. Gable called me at 4 a.m. terrified. She said you were screaming at her house from the street. But you weren't on the street, Daddy. You were in your bed. You were making these calls and you do not even know it. Hunter stepped forward. He placed a hand on Sasha's shoulder, acting the protector. "Arthur, this is serious. You threatened to burn down a medical facility. You threatened to poison a neighbor's pets. These are felonies." I looked at them. I looked at the performance. It was brutal. It was effective. They were gaslighting me with my own digital ghost. They had taken the voice samples harvested by those earbuds and fed them into a synthesis engine. They had typed out the most deranged scripts they could imagine and let the AI perform them. Now they were using those recordings to construct a reality where I was a danger to society. I sank onto the bench by the door. I covered my face with my hands. I let my body tremble. "I do not understand," I whispered. I remember dreaming about spiders. I saw Hunter's eyes light up. He had been waiting for an admission. Any admission. "You see," Sasha Hunter said, his voice low and grave. "He remembers the spiders. It is bleeding through. The dementia is progressing faster than we thought." Sasha knelt in front of me. She took my hands. Her palms were cold. "Daddy, you are sick. You are really sick. We have been trying to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. This is early onset Alzheimer's with aggressive paranoia. It runs in the family, doesn't it? Didn't your uncle have it? My uncle died of a stroke at 50. He never forgot a name in his life." But I nodded slowly. "Maybe. I do not know. My head feels foggy. Gaslighting is a cruel weapon. It targets the one thing a human being relies on to survive: their perception of reality. If you can make a man doubt his own mind, you can make him agree to anything. You can make him walk into a cage and lock the door himself because he believes it is the only safe place left." Hunter opened his briefcase. He pulled out a thick stack of papers. He laid them on the small table by the door. "Arthur, we cannot let this continue," Hunter said. "If the police hear these tapes, they will arrest you. They will put you in a state facility. Do you know what happens to old men in state facilities? They medicate them until they are zombies. They strap them to beds." He paused to let the image sink in. "We cannot let that happen to you. We are family. We have to protect you, even from yourself." I looked up at him. My eyes were wet. I can produce tears on command. It is a trick I learned to get out of speeding tickets in my 20s. "What do I do, Hunter? I do not want to go to jail. I do not want to hurt Mrs. Gable." Hunter sighed. It was the sigh of a man carrying a heavy burden for the good of others. "There is a way, Arthur. A legal way." "We spoke to a specialist this morning, an emergency counsel. He said if we can show that you are under the care of a guardian, the state will back off. They will see that you are being managed." He tapped the papers. "This is a voluntary guardianship agreement. It gives Sasha and me the legal authority to make medical and financial decisions for you. It allows us to speak for you, to tell the police and the doctors that we are handling it." I looked at the document. The text was dense. I saw words like power of attorney, asset liquidation, and irrevocable trust. It was not a protection order. It was a surrender. It was a document that would strip me of my rights, my property, and my freedom. It would turn me into a legal non-entity. Sasha squeezed my hands harder. "Please, Daddy, sign it. For us, if you sign this, we can take care of everything. We can make the calls stop. We can pay off Mrs. Gable if we need to. We can get you the right medication. But we need the authority." I pulled my hands away. I rubbed my temples. "It is so much," I said. "I cannot think straight. The noise in my head. It is like buzzing." "That is the sickness," Arthur Hunter said quickly. "That is the confusion. Do not trust your head right now. Trust us. He pulled a pen from his pocket. It was a Mont Blanc. Expensive. Flashy. Just sign right here on the bottom line. We will handle the rest. You can rest, Arthur. You look so tired. Just sign it and go to sleep. I reached for the pen. My hand shook violently. I let the tip of the pen hover over the paper. I watched Hunter. He was holding his breath. His eyes were locked on the nib of the pen. He was so close. He could taste the money. He could see the beach house he was going to buy. He could see the debts disappearing. I pressed the pen to the paper, and then I let my hand spasm. I jerked the pen to the right, ripping through the paper and sending the pen flying across the room. I grabbed my chest. I gasped for air. My heart. I shouted. My chest. It hurts. I slumped sideways against the wall, sliding down until I hit the floor. Sasha screamed. Daddy. Hunter swore. Damn it. He dropped to his knees beside me. He grabbed my shirt collar. Arthur. Arthur, wake up. I let my eyes roll back in my head. I let my breathing become shallow and erratic. I went limp. Call an ambulance, Sasha yelled. No, Hunter barked. No ambulance. If the paramedics come, they will see he is unstable. They will take him to the hospital. The doctors will run tests. They might find out he is physically fine. We need him legally incompetent, not medically cleared. Then what do we do? Sasha asked. She sounded panicked. Hunter checked my pulse. He is fine. His heart is racing, but he is strong as an ox. It is a panic attack. He is faking or he is scared. Either way, he is useless right now. He stood up and kicked the wall. We need that signature. We cannot access the retirement fund without it. The voice AI failed. This was the backup. I lay on the floor listening. They were talking over my body like I was a piece of broken furniture. He will wake up, Sasha said. Maybe we can get him to sign later. We do not have later, Hunter hissed. I have a deadline, Sasha. You know that. Kilo gave me 48 hours. That was yesterday. He paced the hallway. I heard his heavy footsteps back and forth, back and forth. We need to escalate, he said. What do you mean, Sasha asked. I mean, we stop asking. We stop playing nice. If he is going to act like a crazy old man, we treat him like one. He stopped pacing. Go to the car. Get the bag. What bag, Sasha asked. The one I got from that contact at the clinic. The sedative. I felt a genuine spike of adrenaline. Sedative. They were going to drug me. Hunter continued. We wake him up. We get him groggy. We put the pen in his hand and we guide it. If he's drugged, he won't fight. We get the signature, then we leave him here to sleep it off. By the time he wakes up, the papers are filed and we own everything. Sasha hesitated. Is that safe, Hunter? What if he overdoses? Hunter's voice was cold. Dead cold. He is 68 years old, Sasha. He has a history of heart trouble according to the medical records we are going to forge. If he does not wake up, it is a tragedy. A sorrowful family tragedy. And we inherit anyway. I lay there on the dusty floorboards of my own hallway and realized the game had changed. This wasn't theft anymore. This wasn't fraud. This was murder. They were willing to kill me. They were weighing the option right now, standing 3 feet away from my head. I heard Sasha's footsteps walking toward the door. She was going to get the bag. She was going to get the needle or the pills. I had to move. I had to get out. But I had to do it in a way that didn't blow my cover. I let out a low moan. I fluttered my eyelids. Daddy Sasha stopped. I sat up slowly, clutching my chest. I looked around wildly. Where am I? I asked. Who are you? I looked straight at Hunter. Who are you? Get out of my house. Hunter stared at me. He smiled. A cruel, shark-like smile. He does not recognize us, he said to Sasha. The stress broke him. He is gone. He knelt down in front of me. I am your guardian, Arthur, and you are going to do exactly what I tell you. He looked at Sasha. Forget the bag. He is confused enough. We do not need to drug him yet. Let's get him to the table. We will print a new copy. He will sign it because he doesn't know what else to do. He grabbed me under the arm and hauled me up. He was strong, but I was dead weight. I let him drag me toward the kitchen. My mind was racing. I needed a delay. I needed to stall them. I need water, I rasped. My throat. I cannot breathe. Hunter shoved me into a chair. Get him water, Sasha. Make it quick. Sasha ran to the sink. I looked at the kitchen table. My phone was there. The earbuds were there in the case. Hunter saw me looking. He swept them off the table and shoved them into his pocket. No distractions, old man. Just you and the paper. He pulled a fresh copy of the document from his briefcase. He slammed it onto the table. Sign. I took the pen. My hand shook. I looked at the paper. I looked at Hunter. I am going to need my glasses, I whispered. I cannot see the line. Hunter groaned. Where are they? Upstairs, I said. By the bed. Hunter looked at Sasha. Go get them. Sasha ran for the stairs. Hunter loomed over me. Do not try anything, Arthur. You are weak. You are sick. You need us. I looked at him. I saw the sweat on his upper lip. I saw the fear behind the aggression. I am not sick, Hunter, I thought. I am just patient. Sasha's footsteps thundered upstairs. I gripped the pen. I had to buy time. I had to get them out of the house for 1 hour, just 1 hour to meet with Evans and finalize the trap. I let the pen drop. I think I wet myself, I whispered. Hunter recoiled in disgust. Jesus Christ, Arthur. I looked down at my lap. I hadn't actually done it, but the suggestion was enough. Hunter was a man who wore $500 shoes. He did not deal with bodily functions. He backed away. That is it. That is disgusting. Sasha, get down here. We need to clean him up before he signs. I am not touching that. Sasha ran back into the room holding my reading glasses. What happened? Your father is incontinent, Hunter spat. Get him changed. I am going outside to smoke. I cannot deal with this smell. He stormed out the back door. Sasha looked at me with a mixture of pity and revulsion. Come on, Daddy, let's get you cleaned up. She helped me stand. This was my chance. Hunter was outside. Sasha was distracted. I leaned heavily on her. I am sorry, sweetie, I mumbled. I am so sorry. It is okay, Daddy. Just walk. We walked toward the bathroom. As we passed the laundry room door, I stumbled. I grabbed the door frame. I feel dizzy, I said. Sasha tried to hold me up. Daddy. I shoved her. It wasn't a hard shove, just enough to knock her off balance. She stumbled back into the laundry room. I slammed the door and threw the deadbolt. Sasha screamed, Daddy, what are you doing? Open the door! I did not answer. I moved. I ran to the back door. I locked it. I saw Hunter through the glass standing on the patio lighting a cigarette. He looked up. He saw me. His eyes went wide. I moved faster than a 68-year-old man should move. I ran to the front door. I grabbed my keys from the hook. I heard Hunter pounding on the back door. He was throwing his shoulder against it. The wood splintered. I burst out the front door and sprinted to my truck. I fumbled with the keys. My hands were actually shaking now. I heard glass shatter at the back of the house. Hunter was in. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. Hunter burst out the front door. He was running. He reached into his jacket. I saw the glint of metal, a knife. He wasn't playing Guardian anymore. I slammed the truck into reverse. I peeled out of the driveway, tires screeching. Hunter stood on the lawn chest heaving, watching me go. I looked in the rearview mirror. He pulled his phone out. Run, Arthur, I whispered to myself. Run and do not look back. I had escaped the house, but I wasn't safe yet. I had to get to Joe. I had to get to Evans. And I had to pray that the evidence I had recorded was enough to put these animals in a cage before they put me in the ground. The papers landed on my kitchen table with a heavy thud that sounded like a coffin lid slamming shut. Hunter smoothed them out with hands that trembled slightly from adrenaline. He did not look like a concerned son-in-law anymore. He looked like a man standing at a roulette table who had just bet his entire life on red. I sat in my chair and let my jaw hang slack. I stared at the wall. I picked at a loose thread on my sleeve. I was giving him exactly what he wanted to see. A man who had vacated the premises. A shell. Just sign here, Arthur Hunter said. His voice was tight, strained. It is the new insurance policy we talked about. The advanced medical coverage. It covers everything. Nursing care, memory therapy. It is the best money can buy. I looked down at the document. It was thick. The text was dense. Hunter had clipped the pages together so I could only see the signature lines. But I did not need to see the header to know what this was. This was a durable power of attorney. This was a living will. This was a total transfer of assets. If I signed this, I was not buying insurance. I was signing my own death warrant. Once my signature was on that line, I ceased to be a person in the eyes of the law. I became property. They could sell my house. They could drain my accounts. They could put me in a state-run facility and forget I ever existed. And they could do it all legally. Sasha stood by the sink. She was not looking at me. She was looking out the window, biting her thumbnail until it bled. She knew. She knew exactly what her husband was doing. She knew he was stripping her father of his dignity and his life, and she was letting it happen because she wanted to keep her lease on a luxury car. I reached out and touched the paper. My finger left a smudge on the crisp white page. "Insurance," I mumbled. My voice was raspy, dry. Is it expensive?" Hunter laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "Do not worry about the cost, Arthur. We are handling it. We are taking care of everything. You just need to authorize it." He clicked a pen. He held it out to me. I looked at the pen. Then I looked at him. I saw the greed in his eyes. It was naked. It was ugly. It was a hunger that could never be satisfied. He was looking at me, but he was seeing dollar signs. He was seeing his debts erased. He was seeing his freedom purchased with my life. I reached for the pen. I let my hand shake. I made it a violent tremor, a palsy of fear and age. Hunter watched my hand. He stopped breathing. His eyes widened. He was so close. He was inches away from victory. I took the pen. I held it awkwardly like a child learning to write. Where I asked, "Where do I sign?" "Right there," Hunter whispered. He pointed to the line labeled Grantor, right next to the X. I lowered the pen. I let the tip hover over the paper. I saw Hunter lean in. He was practically vibrating. He was willing the ink onto the page. I needed water. I needed a distraction. My throat, I whispered, so dry. Hunter grabbed the mug of coffee sitting on the table. It was fresh, steaming hot. He shoved it toward my left hand. "Here, drink, then sign." I took the mug. My hand shook harder. Coffee sloshed over the rim, burning my knuckles. I did not flinch. I brought the mug to my lips. I took a sip. I watched Hunter over the rim. He was fixated on the pen in my right hand. He was not watching the mug in my left. This was the moment, the pivot point. I lowered the mug, but I did not set it down. I let my arms spasm. I jerked my left hand violently to the right. The mug flew. 12 ounces of scalding black coffee hit the table. It did not just spill, it exploded. The dark liquid surged across the white paper like a tidal wave. It soaked the signature line instantly. It drenched the pages underneath. It pooled around Hunter's expensive leather briefcase. Hunter screamed. He jumped back, batting at the liquid as if it were acid. "No, no, you stupid old man." He grabbed the papers. They were sodden, ruined. The ink was running. The paper was tearing in his hands. He looked at the mess. Then he looked at me. The mask fell. The concerned son-in-law vanished. The helpful guardian disappeared. In his place stood a monster. His face turned a mottled purple. His lips pulled back from his teeth in a snarl. He raised his hand. He was going to hit me. I saw the muscles in his shoulder bunch. I saw the intent. He wanted to strike me down. He wanted to punish me for ruining his salvation. I did not flinch. I did not cower. I looked him dead in the eye. "Hit me, Hunter," I thought. "Do it. Give me the bruise, give me the evidence, put your hands on me and seal your fate." Sasha screamed. "Hunter, no." The sound of her voice seemed to snap him back to reality. He froze. His hand hovered in the air inches from my face. He was breathing hard, panting like a dog. He realized where he was. He realized hitting a 68-year-old man would leave marks. Marks that doctors would see, marks that police would photograph. He lowered his hand slowly. But his eyes did not change. They were filled with murder. "You clumsy idiot," he hissed. "Do you have any idea what you just did? Do you have any idea how much trouble you are in?" I shrank back in my chair. I made myself small. "I am sorry," I whimpered. It slipped. My hand slipped. "I am so sorry, Hunter. I ruined the insurance." Hunter threw the soggy papers onto the floor. They landed with a wet slap. "It is not insurance, Arthur," he growled. "Stop calling it that." He paced the kitchen. He ran his hands through his hair. He was unraveling. The pressure was getting to him. The debt collectors were counting down the hours, and he was stuck here wiping up coffee. Sasha rushed over with a roll of paper towels. She started blotting the table. She was crying again, silent, terrified tears. "It is okay, Daddy," she whispered. "It was an accident. We can fix it." Hunter spun on her. "Shut up, Sasha. Just shut up. It is not okay. We do not have time for accidents." He looked at the clock on the wall. It was 4 in the afternoon. The banks were closing soon. The law offices were closing. He had lost a day. He looked back at me. I was wiping coffee off my shirt, pretending to be distressed. "You are doing this on purpose, aren't you?" Hunter said. His voice was low, dangerous. I looked up. My eyes were wide and watery. "What, Hunter? I would never. I want the insurance. I want to be safe." He stared at me for a long time. He was trying to see inside my head. He was trying to find the engineer behind the act. But all he saw was a frightened old man with a coffee stain on his shirt. He scoffed, a sound of pure disgust. "You are useless, Arthur. Totally useless." He grabbed his briefcase. He snatched his keys off the counter. "I am going to the office," he barked at Sasha. "I need to print a new copy. I need to draft a new agreement." He leaned over me. He got right in my face. I could smell the stale coffee and the fear coming off him. "Tomorrow, Arthur," he said. "Tomorrow morning. I am coming back here. I am bringing a new contract, and you are going to sign it." He poked me in the chest. "Hard. You are not going to spill anything. You are not going to forget your glasses. You are not going to have a panic attack. You are going to sign your name on the line, or so help me God, I will break your fingers and guide the pen myself. Do you understand me?" I nodded. Rapid, terrified nods. "Yes, Hunter, I understand. Tomorrow." "Good." He stormed out of the kitchen. I heard the front door slam. I heard his engine roar to life. I heard tires squeal on the pavement. He was gone. Sasha stood by the sink holding the wet paper towels. She looked at me. She looked like she wanted to say something. She looked like she wanted to warn me, but she didn't. She just dropped the towels in the trash. "I am going to go lie down, Daddy," she said. "My head hurts." She walked out of the room, leaving me alone in the kitchen. I waited until I heard her bedroom door close upstairs. I stood up. I stopped shaking. I walked over to the mess on the floor. I looked at the ruined papers. Durable power of attorney. I kicked the soggy pile under the table. Hunter had given me a deadline. Tomorrow morning. That meant I had 12 hours. 12 hours before he came back with fresh paper and a shorter temper. 12 hours before the threat of violence became a reality. He thought he had cornered me. He thought he had bought himself time. But he had made a fatal mistake. He had left the house. He had left me alone with the one thing he wanted most in the world. The money. Or rather, the illusion of the money. I walked to my study. I locked the door. I went to the bookshelf and pulled out a copy of Structural Engineering Principles. Behind it was a small wall safe. Hunter knew about the safe. He had been eyeing it for years. He knew that was where I kept my important documents, my passport, the deed to the house, and occasionally cash. He hadn't tried to crack it yet because he wanted to do things legally. He wanted the signature so he could open it with a court order. But tonight he was desperate. Tonight he would not wait for the law. When he came back and found the new contract wasn't enough, he would come for this safe. He would tear the wall down to get to it. I spun the dial. Click, click, click. The door swung open. It was empty. I had moved everything days ago. The deed was in a safety deposit box across town. The cash was in a trust. The passport was in my truck. But I couldn't leave it empty. An empty safe tells a story. It says, "I knew you were coming." It says, "I am one step ahead." I needed to leave him a message that would drive him absolutely insane. I took a piece of paper from my desk. I took a pen. I wrote one sentence. The combination is Sasha's birthday. I placed the note in the center of the safe. I closed the door. I spun the dial. I knew Hunter. He didn't know Sasha's birthday. He would have to ask her. He would have to wake her up. He would have to admit he was robbing me. And when he finally got it open, when he finally cracked the vault he thought held his salvation, he would find nothing but air. That rage would be the final nail. That rage would make him sloppy. It would make him violent. And I would be ready. I went back to the kitchen. I cleaned up the coffee. I washed the mug. I put the earbuds back in my ears. I tapped the mic. "Are you listening, Hunter?" I whispered. "Because the show is just getting started. Tomorrow morning you are coming for my life. But tonight I am coming for your sanity." I lay in the dark under my heavy quilt, fully dressed. My boots were on. I had not slept in 24 hours, but my mind was as sharp as a razor. The house was silent, but it was the silence of a held breath. The red light of the smoke detector blinked on the ceiling. It was the only star in my artificial sky. At 2:14 in the morning, my burner phone vibrated against my hip. I did not need to look at the screen to know what it was. It was a security alert from the offshore trust. Someone was trying to access the account via telephone banking. Someone was using a synthesized voice to request a wire transfer of $50,000. Hunter was making his move. He was desperate. The deadline from his loan sharks was sunrise. He was sitting in his car or his apartment, sweating through his shirt, praying that the AI voice model he had built from my stolen conversations would fool the bank's security algorithms. I closed my eyes and visualized him. I saw him holding the phone with a white-knuckled grip. I saw him typing commands into his laptop. I saw the hope in his eyes turn to panic as the automated system flagged the transaction for suspicious activity and locked the account. I waited. 10 minutes later, the alert came. Account frozen. Two-factor authentication failed. The digital door had slammed in his face. Now he had no choice. He had to come through the physical one. I checked the position of the earbuds on the nightstand. The case was open. The recording light was taped over with black electrical tape so it would not be seen in the dark, but the microphone was wide open. It was streaming everything to Joe's server in the shipping container. At 3 o'clock exactly, I heard it. The sound was faint, a metallic scratch at the back door, the kitchen door. It was the lock I had oiled yesterday morning. I wanted it to turn easily. I did not want them to break the glass and wake the neighbors. I wanted them inside. I wanted them to cross the threshold of no return. The lock clicked. The hinges groaned softly. Footsteps. There were two sets, one heavy and aggressive, one lighter and hesitant. Hunter and Sasha. They had not come to talk. They had not come to check on my health. They had come to strip the carcass. I regulated my breathing. In, out, deep and slow. I had to sound like a man in a deep drug-induced slumber. I had to look like a victim. They moved through the kitchen. I heard the soft thud of Hunter's shoulder bumping against the doorframe. He was moving fast. He was not being careful anymore. They bypassed the living room. They bypassed the dining room. They went straight for the study. They knew exactly where the safe was. I had let them see it over the years. I had let them see me put the deed to the house inside. I had let them see me stash envelopes of cash. I had planted the seed of that safe in their minds for a decade, and tonight it was blooming. I heard the study door creak open. I strained my ears. The acoustics in my house are good. I built the walls myself. Flashlight, Sasha whispered. Her voice was trembling. Keep it low. I do not need the flashlight, Hunter hissed. I know where it is. I heard books being shoved aside. They were clearing the shelf. The heavy volumes of engineering manuals hit the floor with dull thuds. They did not care about the noise. They were past caring. Here it is, Hunter said. His voice was thick with greed. I lay in bed and smiled in the dark. The safe was a formidable thing, a heavy steel box set into the studs of the wall. To the untrained eye, it looked impregnable. It looked like it would take a diamond drill or a stick of dynamite to open. But Hunter knew I was old. He knew I was sentimental. He assumed I would use a combination that was easy to remember. Try his birthday, Sasha whispered. I heard the dial spin. Left, right, left. Hunter cursed. It is not his birthday. Try the address, Sasha suggested. Spin, spin, spin. The handle clanked. Locked. Damn it, Hunter growled. He thinks he is so smart. I shifted slightly in bed, making the springs creak. I wanted to remind them I was here. I wanted to spike their adrenaline. Did you hear that? Sasha gasped. Ignore it, Hunter snapped. He is out cold. Even if he wakes up, he cannot stop us. Think, Sasha. What else would he use? What matters to him? There was a silence, a heavy, pregnant silence. I waited for it. I had written the script, and now they were reading the lines. Mom, Sasha said softly. It has to be Mom. He never changed anything after she died. He still keeps her clothes in the closet. Try her birthday, Hunter said. I heard the dial turn. It was a slow, methodical sound. August 15th, 1956. The final tumbler clicked into place. The sound was as loud as a gunshot in the quiet house. Got it. Hunter breathed. I tensed my muscles. This was the moment of anticipation, the moment before the fall. I heard the heavy steel door swing open. I imagined Hunter's face. I imagined the hunger. I imagined him reaching into the dark cavity, expecting to feel stacks of bills, expecting to feel the heavy parchment of the property deed, expecting salvation. Instead, his hand would find empty air. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the silence of a heart stopping. "Where is it?" Hunter whispered. His voice was high, thin. "What do you mean?" Sasha asked. "Move over. Let me see." "It is gone," Hunter said. "It is all gone. The cash, the deed, the passports. It is empty." "No." Sasha whimpered. "No, no, no. He keeps it here. I saw it last Christmas. It has to be here. Check the back. Feel around." "There is nothing here," Sasha Hunter roared. It was not a whisper anymore. It was a shout. Then I heard the crinkle of paper. "Wait," Hunter said. "There is something. A note." "Read it," Sasha said. I closed my eyes and mouthed the words along with him. "The combination is your mother's birthday." Hunter read it out loud. His voice shook. He knew Sasha. He knew we would try this. He knew we would use her birthday. He is mocking us. The sound of paper tearing filled the air. Hunter had ripped the note in half. He played us. Hunter screamed. He played us like a fiddle. The senile old man act, the shaking hands, the spilled coffee. It was all a lie. He moved the money. He moved everything. A heavy object hit the wall. Probably a bookend. "We are dead," Hunter, Sasha cried. "Kilo is going to kill us. We have nothing." Hunter did not answer. I heard his breathing, heavy, ragged, like a bull in a chute. I heard his footsteps. They were not stealthy anymore. They were pounding against the floorboards. He was leaving the study. He was coming down the hallway. He was coming for me. This was the dangerous part. The part where the plan could go wrong. The part where I could get hurt. But it was necessary. I needed him to cross the line from thief to assailant. I needed him to put his hands on me. I pulled the covers up to my chin. I forced my body to go limp. I slowed my breathing. The bedroom door flew open. It banged against the wall, creating a dent in the plaster. The hallway light flooded the room. It silhouetted Hunter. He looked huge. He looked insane. "Arthur," he bellowed. I stirred. I blinked my eyes, acting groggy. "Who is there?" I mumbled. "Martha, is that you?" Hunter crossed the room in 2 strides. He did not hesitate. He grabbed the front of my shirt. He yanked me out of bed. I let him do it. I let myself be a rag doll in his grip. He threw me against the wall. My head cracked against the plaster. Stars exploded in my vision. The pain was sharp and real. "Where is it, old man?" Hunter screamed. He was inches from my face. I could smell the sweat and the terror on him. "Where is the money?" I looked at him. I let my eyes widen in fake terror. "Hunter," I stammered. "What are you doing? It is the middle of the night." "Drop the act," Hunter shouted. He slammed me against the wall again. The impact rattled my teeth. "I know you moved it. I know you emptied the safe. Tell me where it is, or I will take this house apart brick by brick with your head." Sasha ran into the room. "Hunter, stop. You are hurting him." "Shut up, Sasha," Hunter yelled without looking at her. "He played us. Do you understand? He is not sick. He is laughing at us." He tightened his grip on my shirt, cutting off my air. "Tell me where the money is, Arthur. Tell me now." I gasped. I clawed at his hands feebly. "I do not know what you are talking about," I wheezed. "The money is in the safe. I put it there." "Liar," Hunter screamed. "The safe is empty." "You left a note." "A note," I whispered. I do not remember a note. I think I forgot." Hunter stared at me. His eyes were wild. He was looking for a crack in the facade. He was looking for the engineer. But I gave him nothing. I gave him only the terrified old man he wanted to believe existed. "If he is telling the truth," Sasha said, her voice trembling. "If he really forgot. Then maybe he moved it and forgot where he put it." Hunter, that happens with dementia. They hide things. Hunter looked at Sasha. Then he looked back at me. The uncertainty was killing him. If I was faking, he wanted to beat the truth out of me. If I was sick, beating me would get him nothing. He was trapped in the maze I had built. He let go of my shirt. I slid down the wall and collapsed onto the floor, rubbing my neck. "You better remember," Arthur, Hunter spat. "You better remember right now. Because I do not have time for your games." He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small amber vial. What is that? Sasha asked. Insurance, Hunter said. He uncapped the vial. He tipped it toward me. If you cannot remember Arthur, maybe you need to sleep on it. Maybe when you wake up, the fog will clear. Or maybe you won't wake up at all. He grabbed my jaw. He squeezed hard, forcing my mouth open. Drink it, he commanded. I thrashed. I kicked out. No. No pills. Drink it. He forced the liquid into my mouth. It was bitter, chemical. I gagged. I tried to spit it out. Hunter clamped his hand over my mouth and pinched my nose. Swallow, he hissed. Swallow, or I will break your jaw. I swallowed. He let go. I coughed, sputtering. What did you give me? I gasped. Something to help you rest, Hunter said. He stood up and straightened his jacket. He looked down at me with cold, dead eyes. We are going to find that money, Arthur, and if we don't, you are going to have a very tragic accident on the stairs. Do you understand me? I looked up at him. I let the fear show. But inside I was calculating. I knew the taste of that liquid. It was a benzodiazepine solution. Potent, fast-acting. I had maybe 10 minutes before my muscles turned to water. 10 minutes to execute the escape. I slumped against the wall. I let my eyelids droop. Daddy, Sasha whispered. Let him sleep, Hunter said. He grabbed Sasha's arm. Come on, we need to search the basement. If he hid it, he might have put it down there. They walked out of the room. I waited until their footsteps faded down the hall. I spat into my sleeve. I had managed to hold some of the liquid under my tongue, but I had swallowed enough to feel the edges of my vision blurring. The clock was ticking. The trap had snapped shut, but I was the one inside it. I had to move. Now. I crawled toward the window. I needed air. I needed to get to the extraction point. Hunter thought he had won. He thought he had sedated the problem. He didn't know that adrenaline is the strongest antidote in the world, and I had a lifetime supply coursing through my veins. The room spun violently as Hunter slammed me against the plaster for the third time. The impact sent a shockwave down my spine that rattled my teeth. I tasted iron in my mouth. My lip was split. I let my knees buckle. I let my head loll to the side. I was a rag doll in the grip of a man who had lost his mind to debt and desperation. Hunter was sweating profusely. His face was inches from mine. His breath smelled of stale coffee and terror. His eyes were wide and bloodshot. He looked like a cornered animal. He looked like a man who knew his time was running out. Where is it, Arthur? He screamed. Spittle flew from his lips and landed on my cheek. Do not lie to me. The safe was empty. You moved it. Tell me where you put the cash. Tell me where you put the deed. I looked at him through half-closed eyelids. I saw the rage. I saw the violence coiling in his muscles. I knew I had to sell the performance of a lifetime. If I showed even a flicker of the lucid engineer hiding beneath the surface, he would kill me right here. He would beat me until I stopped breathing. I had to be the confused old man. I had to be the burden. I blinked slowly. I looked past him at the empty corner of the room. Martha, I croaked. My voice was a broken whisper. Martha, did you get the milk? Hunter shook me. His fingers dug into my shoulders like claws. Stop it. Stop saying her name. Martha is dead, Arthur. She has been dead for 5 years. Focus on me. Focus on the money. I shook my head feebly. No. No, she just left. She took the green bag. She said she needed to go to the market. She took the envelopes. It was the perfect lie. It was a lie wrapped in the tragedy of dementia. It offered an explanation for the missing money that Hunter could not fight. If I believed my dead wife had taken the cash, then beating me would not bring it back. You cannot interrogate a ghost. And you cannot extract information from a mind that is living in 1999. Hunter released me with a growl of frustration. I slid down the wall and crumpled onto the floor. I curled into a ball, protecting my ribs. I whimpered. She took the envelopes I mumbled into the carpet. For the milk. Hunter kicked the wall next to my head. His shoe punched a hole through the drywall. Dust rained down on my hair. He is gone, Sasha Hunter yelled. He spun around to face my daughter. He is completely gone. His brain is mush. He thinks your mother went grocery shopping with $200,000. Sasha was standing in the doorway. She was hugging herself. Her face was pale and wet with tears. She looked at me huddled on the floor. She looked at her husband destroying her childhood home. Maybe he hid it. Hunter, Sasha said, her voice trembling. Maybe he buried it in the yard. We can look. We can get a metal detector. We do not have time for a treasure hunt, Hunter roared. Kilo wants his money by sunrise. Sunrise, Sasha. Do you know what happens at sunrise? They come for me. They come for us. He ran his hands through his hair, pulling at the roots. He paced the room like a caged tiger. He needed a solution. He needed control. And right now I was the variable he could not control. He stopped pacing. He looked down at me. His expression changed. The heat of his rage cooled into something far more terrifying. It became calculation. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. He pulled out a small glass vial. It was amber glass with no label. It looked like something bought in a back alley behind a pharmacy. I knew what it was. I had heard him talking about it on the wiretap. It was a potent antipsychotic sedative, something used to knock out patients who were a danger to themselves or others, or in this case, a danger to their son-in-law's bank account. If he cannot talk, Hunter said, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper, then he needs to sleep. He needs to sleep until we can fix this. He uncapped the vial. The smell of bitter chemicals wafted through the room. Sasha stepped forward. Hunter, what are you doing? You said we wouldn't use that unless we had to. We have to. Hunter snapped. Look at him. He is hallucinating. He is liability. If we leave him here, he will wander out into the street. He will talk to the neighbors. He will ruin everything. He knelt beside me. He grabbed a handful of my hair and yanked my head back. My neck strained. I looked up into his eyes. There was no humanity left in them, just the cold calculus of survival. Open your mouth, Arthur, he commanded. I clamped my jaw shut. I struggled. I flailed my arms weakly, hitting his chest. No, I cried. No medicine. I want Martha. Shut up about Martha, Hunter hissed. He used his other hand to squeeze my jaw. His thumb dug into the soft tissue under my ear. The pain was sharp and blinding. Drink it, you old fool. I looked at Sasha. I made eye contact with my daughter, my only child, the girl I had taught to ride a bike, the girl I had walked down the aisle. Sasha, help me. I gasped. Please, do not let him. Sasha looked at me. Then she looked at Hunter. She looked at the hole in the wall. She looked at the expensive watch on her wrist that was bought with credit she could not pay back. She made her choice. She did not step forward to stop him. She did not grab his arm. She did not call the police. She simply closed her eyes and let the tears fall. Just take it, Daddy, she whispered. Her voice was broken, but her resolve was clear. Just drink it. It will help you sleep. Please, Daddy. For us. Just do it so we can figure this out. For us. That was the dagger. She wasn't asking me to take it for my health. She was asking me to take it for their convenience. She was asking me to be unconscious so they could rob me in peace. She was asking me to die a little so they could live a little longer in their lie. The betrayal hit me harder than the drug ever could. It severed the last thread of hope I had held onto. I had thought maybe, just maybe, there was still a daughter in there somewhere, but there wasn't. There was only an accomplice. Hunter squeezed harder. My jaw popped. My mouth opened involuntarily. Here is your medicine, Arthur Hunter sneered. Sweet dreams. When you wake up, you will be in a nice room with padded walls. You can talk to Martha all you want there. He tipped the vial. The liquid poured into my mouth. It tasted like battery acid and despair. It burned my tongue. It coated my throat. I gagged. I tried to cough it up. Hunter clamped his hand over my mouth and pinched my nose shut. He cut off my air. Swallow, he ordered. My lungs burned. My body screamed for oxygen. My survival instinct kicked in. I had to swallow to breathe. I gulped. The liquid slid down my throat. It felt heavy and cold in my stomach. Hunter held his hand there for another 10 seconds just to be sure. He watched my throat work. He watched the fight drain out of me. Then he shoved my head back against the floor and stood up. There, he said, wiping his hands on his pants as if he had just touched something filthy. That should shut him up for 12 hours. I lay on the floor gasping for air. I could feel the drug hitting my system fast. My fingertips started to tingle. The edges of my vision began to blur. It was strong, much stronger than I had anticipated. I coughed and sputtered. What did you do? I slurred. My tongue felt thick and heavy in my mouth. I saved us, Arthur Hunter said. He capped the empty vial and put it back in his pocket. He turned to Sasha. Get the car ready. We are going to load him up. Sasha opened her eyes. She looked at me lying broken on the floor. Load him up, she asked. Where are we taking him? Not yet, Hunter corrected himself. He looked at his watch. We cannot move him yet. It is too risky. The neighbors might see. We wait until the sedative takes full effect. We wait until he is out cold. Then we verify the accounts again. Maybe we missed something. Maybe he has a ledger. He kicked my leg lightly. Start searching the room, Sasha. Check under the mattress, check the floorboards, check his pockets. I am going to check the garage. If he moved the money, it has to be somewhere on this property. Sasha nodded, wiping her face. Okay. Okay, Hunter. She knelt down and started pulling drawers out of my dresser, dumping my clothes onto the floor. She stepped over my legs as if I were a rug. I lay there and let the darkness creep in at the corners of my eyes. My heart rate was slowing down. My limbs felt like lead, but my mind was still racing. I had swallowed the poison. I had played the victim. I had given them exactly what they wanted. Hunter thought he had bought himself 12 hours of silence. He thought he had neutralized the threat. He was wrong. He had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had underestimated my tolerance. He had underestimated my will. And he had underestimated the chemistry of adrenaline. I wasn't going to sleep for 12 hours. I was going to fight this fog with every ounce of strength I had left. I watched Sasha tearing apart my room. I watched her throwing my life onto the floor, looking for a payday that didn't exist. I waited. I needed them to leave the room. I needed 5 minutes alone. Just 5 minutes to get to the window, 5 minutes to get to the fresh air, 5 minutes to disappear. Hunter walked out of the room, heading for the garage. Sasha stopped searching. She looked at me. "I am sorry, Daddy," she whispered again, "but we have no choice." She turned off the overhead light, leaving me in the semi-darkness. "I am going to help Hunter," she said to the empty room. "Do not go anywhere." She walked out and closed the door. The click of the latch was the starting gun. I was alone. I was drugged. I was battered. But I was Arthur Banks, and I had built bridges that withstood hurricanes. I could withstand this. I forced my eyes open. I dug my fingers into the carpet. I dragged my heavy body toward the window. The race against time had begun, and I intended to win. The carpet fibers were rough against my cheek. The smell of dust and old wool filled my nose. My body felt heavy. It felt like I was wearing a suit made of lead. The sedative was working. It pulled at my eyelids. It slowed my heart. It tried to drag me down into a black velvety sleep where nothing hurt and nobody betrayed you. But I refused to go. I focused on the pain in my jaw where Hunter had squeezed it. I focused on the throb in my head where it had hit the wall. I used the pain. Pain is clarity. Pain is a warning system. As long as I felt pain, I was alive. I lay perfectly still. My breathing was shallow and rhythmic. To anyone watching, I was a man in a chemical coma. The door creaked open. I did not flinch. I did not alter the rhythm of my breath. Hunter and Sasha walked in. I heard the scuff of Hunter's expensive leather soles. I heard the soft rustle of Sasha's dress. "He is out," Hunter said. He kicked the sole of my boot. I let my leg absorb the impact without reaction. "He is out cold." "That stuff works fast," "Good," Sasha whispered. Her voice was thin and brittle. "What now?" "We searched the basement. We searched the garage. The money is not here, Hunter. He moved it." Hunter sighed. It was a long, rattling sound. "Then we have a problem. A big problem. Kilo is not going to wait for probate court. Kilo is not going to wait for us to find a hidden account." He paced the room. He stopped near my head. "We need a permanent solution, Sasha. We cannot keep him drugged for weeks while we hunt for assets. He is a liability. As long as he is alive, he can talk. He can change his will. He can call the police." "What are you saying?" Sasha asked. "I am saying we need to accelerate the timeline," Hunter replied. His voice was devoid of emotion. "It was a business transaction. Tomorrow morning, early, before the neighbors are up, we wake him. He will still be groggy, unsteady. We help him to the stairs. We tell him we are taking him to the hospital." And then Sasha asked. "And then he trips," Hunter said. "It happens all the time. Elderly man, history of dizziness, confused state. He misses a step. He falls. The medical examiner finds the sedative in his blood, but we have the fake prescription I bought. It looks like he took his meds, got confused, and fell. Tragic accident. I lay there and listened to my son-in-law script my death. He spoke about it with the same casual tone he used to order coffee. Sasha was silent for a long moment. I waited for the objection. I waited for her to say no. I waited for her to say, "That is my father." "He won't feel it," Sasha said softly. He won't feel a thing. Hunter assured her, it will be quick. A broken neck is instant, and then we inherit. We pay kilo. We keep the house. We keep the cars. We start over. Okay, Sasha whispered. Okay, let's do it. The final betrayal was complete. There was no going back now. They had crossed the Rubicon. Let's go smoke, Hunter said. I need a cigarette. My hands are shaking. We should stay here, Sasha said. Watch him. He is not going anywhere, Hunter scoffed. He took enough diazepam to knock out a horse. He will be out for 12 hours minimum. Come on, I need fresh air. They walked out of the room. I heard their footsteps retreat down the hallway. I heard the back door open and close. Silence returned to the house. I opened my eyes. The room swam. The edges of my vision were dark vignettes. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. I had to move. I dug my elbows into the carpet and dragged myself forward. My legs felt disconnected from my body. I was a sailor trying to walk on a storm-tossed deck. I crawled to the window. I pulled myself up using the sill. My arms trembled violently. I looked out. I saw the orange glow of a cigarette tip on the back patio below. They were standing right there guarding the rear exit. I could not go out the back. I turned toward the door. The hallway led to the front door, but the floorboards there creaked. If I stepped on the wrong one, they would hear me. I had to risk it. I stumbled to the door. I leaned against the frame, panting. I wiped the sweat from my eyes. Focus, Arthur, I told myself. You built this house. You know every nail. You know every board. I stepped into the hallway. I stayed close to the wall where the joists were strongest. I moved like a ghost in my own home. I reached the kitchen. I saw the empty vial on the floor. I saw the coffee stain. I went to the side door, the one that led to the mudroom in the side yard. It was rarely used. The hinges were stiff. I gripped the handle. I turned it slowly, millimeter by millimeter. The latch clicked. It sounded like a cannon blast in the quiet kitchen. I froze. I waited for the shout. I waited for the sound of running feet. Nothing. Just the distant murmur of their voices on the patio. They were arguing again, distracted by their own guilt and fear. I pushed the door open. The cool night air hit my face like a slap. It cleared my head for a second. I stepped out into the darkness. I closed the door behind me but did not latch it. I did not want the sound to give me away. I was out, but I wasn't safe. I was in the side yard exposed. The streetlights cast long shadows. I could not take my truck. Hunter had the keys, and the engine noise would alert them instantly. I had to walk. I moved toward the tree line at the edge of the property. Behind my house was a stretch of woods that bordered the old industrial park. It was thick with kudzu and pine. It was dark, and it was my only way out. I entered the trees. The branches whipped my face. Briars tore at my clothes. I stumbled over a root and fell hard to my knees. I grunted in pain. I lay there in the dirt, breathing the scent of damp earth and pine needles. It would be so easy to stay here, to close my eyes, to let the drug win. Get up, Arthur, I hissed. Get up. I forced myself to my feet. I leaned against an oak tree. I started to run. It was a shambling, lurching run. My balance was shot. I bounced off trees. I tripped over vines. I fell again and again. But every time I fell, I crawled forward. I covered a mile in what felt like an hour. My lungs burned. My legs were fire. Finally, the trees thinned. I saw the chain-link fence of the industrial park. I saw the sodium vapor lights of the old gas station on the corner. It was closed, dark. But on the side of the building, standing like a relic from another time, was a payphone. I staggered toward it. I hoped it still worked. I hoped the vandals hadn't destroyed it. I reached the booth. I leaned against the glass, trying to stay upright. I lifted the receiver, a dial tone, a beautiful, steady hum. I fumbled in my pockets. I found a quarter. I always kept change. Old habits die hard. I dropped the coin in the slot. My fingers were numb. I dialed the number. I did not call the police. The police would ask questions. They would want a statement. They would take me to a hospital where Hunter could find me. I called the one man who would ask no questions until the threat was neutralized. The phone rang once, twice. Yeah, the voice was rough. Awake. Joe, I rasped. It is Art. Where are you? The signal went dead 3 hours ago. I thought they smashed the buds. I am at the gas station, on 4th and Mill. Are you okay? You sound like you are dying. They drugged me, Joe. They are planning to kill me. Tomorrow morning. The stairs. I heard the sound of a chair scraping. I heard keys jingling. Sit tight, Art. Do not move. I am 3 minutes out. I hung up the phone. I slid down the wall of the gas station until I was sitting on the concrete. I looked at the road. It was empty. I closed my eyes for just a second. When I opened them, headlights were blinding me. A beat-up Jeep roared into the parking lot. It jumped the curb. It screeched to a halt 5 feet from me. The door flew open. Joe Gunner jumped out. He looked like an avenging angel in cargo pants. He grabbed me. He hauled me up. He looked at my pupils. Pinned, he muttered. You are lucky your heart didn't stop, old man. He threw me into the passenger seat. Where to? He asked as he slammed the door. Take me to your place, I said. I need to meet Evans. I need the police chief. Joe peeled out of the lot. You got it. I leaned my head back against the seat. I watched the streetlights blur past. I had escaped. I had survived the night. But I wasn't done. I touched the pocket of my torn shirt. The earbuds were gone. Hunter had taken them. But I had something better. I had the truth. And tomorrow morning I was going back to that house. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to run away. I was going to walk through the front door and look my executioner in the eye. And I was going to bring hell with me. Joe Gunner's coffee tasted like diesel fuel and vengeance. I sat on a metal folding chair wrapped in a wool blanket while the caffeine fought a war against the benzodiazepines still sluggish in my blood. The shipping container was cold, but it was the safest place on earth. The walls were lined with lead, and the door was reinforced steel. Outside, the sun was beginning to streak the sky with the colors of a bruise. Inside, the air was thick with tension. 3 men stood around the metal desk. Joe looked like a mechanic who had just found a bomb in an engine. Beside him stood Marcus Evans, my attorney. Evans was a man who wore $3,000 suits and had a smile like a razor blade. I had kept him on retainer for 20 years for my business dealings, but tonight he looked ready for a street fight. The third man was Chief Miller. He was a friend of Joe's from the service. He was big, he was quiet, and he was staring at the monitor with a look of pure disgust. "Play it again," Miller said. His voice was a low rumble. Joe hit a key. The audio filled the small space. It was the recording from the hidden camera I had installed in the living room ceiling fan 3 days ago. The camera I had never told anyone about, not even Joe. Hunter's voice came through, tinny but clear. We help him to the stairs. We tell him we are taking him to the hospital, and then he trips. A broken neck is instant. Then Sasha's voice, soft, resigned, complicit. He won't feel it. Evans took off his glasses. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. He looked at me. Jesus, Arthur, they are not just thieves. They are executioners. I nodded. The movement made my head swim. They are desperate, Marcus. Desperation makes people efficient. Miller leaned forward. His badge caught the light from the screen. We have them on conspiracy, he said. We have them on fraud. We have them on elder abuse. I can send a squad car right now and pick them up. We can book them before breakfast. No, Evans interrupted. He put his glasses back on. His eyes were cold. If we arrest them now on conspiracy, a good defense attorney will tear this apart. They will claim it was dark humor. They will claim it was a hypothetical conversation born of stress. They will say they never intended to go through with it. They will plead it down to a misdemeanor and walk in 3 years. He looked at me. Arthur wants them gone forever. Don't you, Arthur? I looked at my hands. They were steady now. The tremor was gone. I want them to rot, I said. I want them to die in a cage. Then we need more, Evans said. We need the act. Conspiracy is thoughts. Attempted murder is action. We need an overt act toward the commission of the crime. Miller crossed his arms. You want us to let them try to kill him? That is insane. We are not using a civilian as a clay pigeon. He is not a civilian. Joe interjected. He is the target, and he is the only one who can sell it. The room went silent. The hum of the computer servers seemed to get louder. I looked at the screen. I saw the frozen image of my living room. I saw the ghosts of the people I used to call family. What do you need me to do? I asked. Evans looked at Miller. Miller sighed and shook his head, but he did not say no. We need you to go back, Evans said. We need you to walk into that house. We need you to present yourself as the victim they think you are. We need Hunter to put his hands on you with the intent to kill. And then Miller added, we breach. We will have a tactical team in the perimeter. We will be watching the live feed from your cameras. The second he makes a move toward those stairs, we take the door." "It sounds simple," I said. "It is incredibly dangerous," Miller said. "If we are late by 2 seconds, you go down those stairs. At your age, a fall like that is not an injury. It is a fatality." I laughed. It was a dry, dusty sound. I survived Vietnam, Chief. I survived cancer. I survived 40 years of construction sites. I think I can survive my son-in-law. "But there is a variable," Joe said. He pointed at the screen. "Sasha." I looked at my daughter. In the freeze frame, she looked small. She looked trapped. "What about her?" I asked. "She is the wild card," Evans said. "She agreed to the plan, but she hesitated. If she cracks, if she warns him, if she tries to stop it." The dynamic changes. Hunter might panic. He might use a weapon instead of the stairs. "He has a knife," I said. "I saw it when I drove away." Miller swore softly. "That changes the risk profile. If he has a blade, we cannot let him get within 10 feet of you." "He won't use the knife," I said. I was certain. I knew Hunter. I knew his vanity. "Why are you so sure?" Evans asked. "Because a knife is messy," I replied. "A knife is murder. A fall is an accident. Hunter thinks he is smarter than the police. He thinks he can talk his way out of an accident. He won't use the knife unless he knows the plan is blown." I stood up. The blanket fell from my shoulders. I felt strong. I felt the cold clarity of a structural engineer looking at a problem that required demolition. "I am going back," I said. Miller looked at me. He assessed me. He saw the resolve. "Okay, Arthur, we do it your way. But you wear a wire, a real one, not those toy earbuds, and you wear a vest." "No vest," I said. "Hunter is going to grab me. He is going to feel it. If he feels Kevlar, he knows it is a trap. He kills me right there." "It is suicide," Miller argued. "It is justice," I countered. I walked over to the desk. I picked up the flash drive containing the evidence of the wiretap, the financial records, and the video of them planning my death. I handed it to Miller. "This is your insurance," I said. "If I go down those stairs and I do not get up, you use this to bury them." Miller took the drive. He looked at it like it was a holy relic. "We will be outside, Arthur. We will be close." "I know." I looked at Joe. "I need a ride," I said. "Drop me a block away. I need to look like I walked all night. I need to look like I got lost in the woods." Joe nodded. He grabbed his keys. "Let's go." The drive back to my neighborhood was silent. The sky was turning a pale gray. The birds were starting to sing. It was a beautiful morning for a murder. Joe stopped the Jeep at the corner of Oak and Elm. It was the entrance to my subdivision. "This is it, Art," Joe said. He did not look at me. He was gripping the steering wheel tight. "If you change your mind, just walk away. We can nail them with what we have. It might not be life in prison, but it is something." "It is not enough," I said. I opened the door. Joe looked at me then. "Why, Art? Why risk it? You are safe. You have the money. You can disappear." I looked down the street toward my house. I could see the roofline against the dawn sky. I had built that roof. I had paid for every shingle. I cannot disappear, Joe. Because if I run, they win. They take my house. They take my name. They take my dignity. I stepped out onto the pavement. I have to see it, Joe. I have to see the fear in their eyes when the hammer comes down. I have to know that they know I beat them. Joe nodded. He understood. He was a Marine. He knew that some battles are not about territory. They are about honor, good hunting art. He drove away. I stood on the corner. I ruffled my hair. I untucked my shirt. I rubbed dirt on my face. I slumped my shoulders. I summoned the old man one last time. I started walking. My steps were slow and shuffling. I dragged my feet. I turned the corner onto my street. My house sat there quiet and imposing. The lights were off. The curtains were drawn. But I knew they were inside. I knew they were waiting. Hunter was probably in the kitchen drinking coffee, checking the clock, wondering where the body was. Sasha was probably in the living room staring at the wall, wondering how she had become a monster. I walked up the driveway. I did not go to the back door. I went to the front. I wanted to ring the bell. I wanted to announce my return. I reached for the button. My hand did not shake. This was the final act. The curtain was rising. I pressed the bell. Ding dong. I waited. I heard footsteps. Heavy. Fast. The lock turned. The door swung open. Hunter stood there. He was wearing the same clothes as last night. His eyes were wild. He looked like a man who had stared into the abyss and blinked. "Arthur," he breathed. I looked at him. I let my jaw hang open. I looked past him into the shadows of the house. "I got lost, Hunter," I mumbled. "I got lost in the trees. I want to go to bed." Hunter stared at me. For a second, I saw doubt. I saw suspicion, but then I saw relief. A wave of relief so profound it almost made him sag. He reached out. He grabbed my arm. His grip was hard, possessive. "Come inside, Arthur," he said. "We were so worried. Come inside." He pulled me over the threshold. He closed the door. He locked it. I was back in the cage. But this time the cage was rigged to blow, and I was holding the detonator. The lock clicked shut behind me. It was a solid mechanical sound. The sound of a cell door closing. I stood in the hallway of the house I had built with my own hands 30 years ago. The air was stale. It smelled of cold coffee and old sweat. The morning light filtered through the dusty windows, casting long gray shadows across the floorboards. Hunter stood with his back against the door. His chest was heaving. He looked at me with a mixture of disbelief and savage triumph. He had spent the night tearing my house apart. He had spent the night terrified that I had gone to the police. And now here I was. The problem had walked right back into the trap. "Where were you, Arthur?" Hunter asked. His voice was tight. It vibrated with suppressed violence. I blinked slowly. I let my shoulders slump. I swayed on my feet. "The woods," I mumbled. "I saw a deer, a big buck." I followed him. He went into the trees. I looked down at my boots. They were covered in red clay mud. I had made sure of that. I got lost. I lost the path. I walked for a long time. Hunter stepped away from the door. He circled me. He looked like a wolf inspecting a wounded calf. He checked my pockets. He patted down my sides. He was looking for the cash. He was looking for the deed. He found nothing but lint and a few pine needles. "Where is the money, Arthur?" he hissed. "Where did you put it?" I looked at him with vacant eyes. "Money," I asked. "For the groceries. Martha has it." Hunter closed his eyes. He exhaled a long, shuddering breath. He ran a hand over his face. He looked exhausted. He looked like a man at the end of his rope. "He is useless, Sasha," Hunter said. He turned to my daughter who was standing in the kitchen doorway. She looked like a ghost. Her skin was gray. Her eyes were hollow. Sasha looked at me. "Daddy, you came back." "I wanted to go to bed," I whispered. "I am so tired, Sasha. My legs hurt." Hunter looked at the clock on the wall. It was 6:15 in the morning. The neighborhood was still quiet. The world was still asleep. He looked at me. Then he looked at the stairs. A dark understanding passed over his face. The calculation was visible. He did not have time to interrogate me. He did not have time to drug me again and wait for it to kick in. He did not have time to search the woods. Kilo wanted his money today. And if Hunter could not pay, he needed a tragedy. He needed a death certificate. He needed to be the grieving son-in-law by noon so he could borrow against the estate by 3. He made the decision right then. I saw it happen. I saw the last flicker of humanity go out in his eyes. "Sasha, lock the back door," Hunter ordered. Sasha hesitated. "Hunter, what are you doing?" "Just lock the door, Sasha," Hunter snapped. "And close the blinds. The sun is coming up. We do not want a glare." Sasha did not move. She looked from him to me. "He just got home, Hunter. Let him sit down. Let him have some water." "We do not have time for water." Hunter walked past her. He grabbed the blinds in the living room and yanked them shut. The room plunged into semi-darkness. He walked back to me. He stood too close. He invaded my space. "You are right, Arthur," he said. His voice was soft now, frighteningly soft. "You look exhausted. You should go to bed. You should go upstairs and rest." I nodded weakly. "Yes. Bed. I want to sleep." "Let me help you," Hunter said. He reached into his back pocket. I tensed. I expected the knife, but it was not a knife. It was a pair of blue nitrile gloves, the kind mechanics use, the kind he kept in the garage for working on his car. He snapped them on. The sound was loud in the quiet hallway. Snap, snap. "Why are you wearing gloves, Hunter?" I asked. My voice was filled with a childlike confusion. He smoothed the latex over his fingers. He did not look at me. He looked at his hands. "Hygiene, Arthur. You are dirty. You have mud all over you. I do not want to get my suit dirty." It was a lie. A lazy lie. He was wearing gloves because he did not want his DNA on my shirt when he pushed me. He did not want his skin cells under my fingernails when I fought back. He was preparing a crime scene. Sasha saw the gloves. She gasped. She put a hand over her mouth. "Hunter, no, not like this." Hunter spun on her. His face was a mask of fury. "Do you have a better idea, Sasha? Do you have $200,000 in your pocket? Because if you do not, then shut your mouth and go stand in the kitchen." Sasha started to cry, silent racking sobs. "Go!" Hunter roared. Sasha turned and ran into the kitchen. She did not leave the house. She did not call for help. She just hid. She was an accomplice to the end. A coward who could not watch the slaughter but would happily spend the inheritance. Hunter turned back to me. He forced a smile. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. "Come on, Arthur, let's get you up those stairs." He grabbed my arm. His grip was iron. He wasn't guiding me. He was steering me. I let him lead me to the foot of the stairs. The staircase in my house is steep. It is a straight shot from the second-floor landing to the hardwood of the foyer. 14 steps. Oak. Solid. Unforgiving. I had built these stairs. I had sanded them. I had varnished them. I knew exactly how hard they were. I looked up at the landing. It seemed very high. Hunter pushed me forward. "Up you go, Arthur, one step at a time." I put my hand on the banister. I took the first step. I moved slowly, painfully slowly. Hunter was right behind me. I could feel his breath on my neck. I could feel the heat of his body. He was crowding me. He was practically pushing me up the incline. I halted on the third step. I swayed. "I am dizzy," I said. "I need to sit down." "No," Hunter said. He put a hand on my back. He pushed. "Keep moving. The bed is just at the top. You can sleep forever once you get to the top." I took another step, then another. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I knew Miller and the tactical team were outside. I knew they were watching the feed from the cameras. They were seeing a man in blue latex gloves forcing an elderly man up a staircase. They were seeing premeditation. They were seeing intent. But they couldn't breach yet. They needed the overt act. They needed the attempt. They needed me to be at the top. I climbed. Step 6, step 7, step 8. Hunter was getting impatient. He nudged me harder. "Move, Arthur. Lift your feet." I stumbled on step 10. My knee hit the riser. I cried out. "Help me, Hunter. I cannot make it." He grabbed my arm and hauled me up. He wasn't gentle. He yanked me like a sack of cement. "Almost there." He grunted. "Just a few more." We reached the top landing. I stood there panting. I looked down into the foyer. The floor looked miles away. The rug had been kicked aside. It was just bare, hard wood waiting to break my bones. Hunter stepped up beside me. He was breathing hard too. The adrenaline was coursing through him. He checked the hallway. He checked the bedroom doors. He wanted to make sure we were alone. He turned to me. He looked at my face. He looked at the mud on my cheek. He looked at the gray stubble on my chin. "You should have just died in your sleep, Arthur," he said. "It would have been easier. For everyone." He placed both hands on my chest. The blue gloves were bright against my flannel shirt. I looked him in the eye. I dropped the confusion. I dropped the fear. I let my back straighten. I let my gaze clear. I looked at him with the cold, hard stare of a man who had stared down structural failures that could kill thousands. "Easier for you, Hunter," I said. My voice was steady, strong. "Not for me." Hunter frowned. He blinked. He saw the change. He saw the old man vanish and the engineer appear. "What?" he whispered. "You forgot to check for load-bearing walls," I said. Hunter's eyes went wide. Panic flared in his pupils. He realized in that split second that something was terribly wrong. He realized the dynamic had shifted. He tried to shove me. He lunged forward, putting his weight into his arms. He wanted to launch me backward into the void, but I was ready. I did not step back. I pivoted. I stepped to the side with a speed that belied my age. I grabbed his right wrist with my left hand. I grabbed his lapel with my right. I used his own momentum against him. It was simple physics. Force plus velocity equals trajectory. I pulled him forward and down. Hunter screamed. He flailed. He tried to grab the banister, but I had him. I slammed him into the railing. The wood groaned but held. I twisted his arm behind his back. I drove my knee into his thigh. He crumbled. He hit the floor of the landing hard. I did not let go. I pinned him. I drove my forearm into the back of his neck. Hunter struggled. He bucked. He was younger. He was stronger, but he was panicked, and I was prepared. "Get off me!" he shrieked. You crazy old bat. He reached into his pocket. He was going for the knife. I saw his hand move. I saw the intent. Sasha, he screamed. Sasha, help me. He is killing me. I heard Sasha running from the kitchen. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Daddy, stop. Hunter got his hand on the knife. He pulled it out. The blade snapped open. He slashed backward blindly. The steel whistled past my ear. He scrambled to his knees. He turned to face me. He held the knife low. He looked like a cornered rat. You want to play Arthur? He hissed. Fine. Let's play. He lunged. And then the front door exploded. The wood shattered inward with a deafening crash. Glass flew everywhere. Smoke grenades rolled into the foyer, hissing and spewing thick white clouds. Police, get down. Get on the ground. The voices were amplified. Thunderous. Red laser dots danced through the smoke. They swept up the stairs. They found Hunter's chest. They found his face. Drop the weapon. Drop it now. Men in black tactical gear swarmed into the house. They moved with fluid precision. They poured up the stairs like a black tide. Hunter froze. He looked at the knife in his hand. He looked at the laser sights painting his chest. He looked at me. I stood tall on the landing. I brushed the dust off my shirt. It is over, Hunter, I said. Hunter dropped the knife. It clattered down the stairs, bouncing on the wood. He raised his hands. The blue gloves were shaking. I did not do anything. He screamed. He attacked me. He is crazy. A tactical officer tackled him. They slammed him into the wall. They forced his arms behind his back. I heard the zip ties ratchet shut. Sasha was screaming on the stairs. No. No. Do not hurt him. Another officer grabbed her. He cuffed her. Arthur, Hunter yelled as they dragged him up. Tell them you are confused. Tell them it was an accident. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the black earbuds, the ones he had given me 5 days ago, the ones that had started this war. I held them up. I threw them at his feet. They landed on the floor next to his face as the officer pressed his cheek into the carpet. I am not confused, Hunter, I said, and I heard everything, every single word. The officer hauled Hunter to his feet. Arthur Banks, Hunter whispered. He looked at me with horror. That is my name, I said, and I watched as they dragged him down the stairs he had meant for me. The moment Hunter lunged, his eyes were void of anything resembling humanity. He was not looking at a father-in-law or even a human being. He was looking at a pile of debt that needed to be erased. He threw his entire body weight forward. He committed fully to the shove. He expected resistance. He expected an old man who would brace himself and crumble under the force. He expected physics to work in his favor. He was wrong. I did not brace. I did not step back. I stepped into the void he created. I am 68 years old, but I learned judo in 1974. Muscle memory does not age. It sits dormant in the fibers waiting for a signal. When I saw his shoulders drop and his weight shift, my body reacted before my brain could process the betrayal. I pivoted on my left heel. I dropped my center of gravity. I grabbed his outstretched arm not to stop him but to help him. I pulled. Hunter's momentum combined with my pull turned him into a missile. He flew past my shoulder. His eyes went wide with shock. For a split second he was weightless. He was suspended in the air over the staircase he had meant to be my grave. Then gravity took over. He slammed face first into the heavy oak banister. The sound of cartilage cracking against varnished wood echoed like a gunshot in the stairwell. He screamed. It was a wet, gurgling sound. He bounced off the railing and hit the floor of the landing hard. He scrambled to his knees. Blood poured from his nose. It dripped onto the white shirt he had worn to murder me. He looked up at me. The shock was gone, replaced by a feral panic. He realized the narrative had changed. He wasn't the predator anymore. He was the prey. He reached into his pocket. His hand came out with a flash of silver, a switchblade. The blade snapped open with a menacing click. I stood my ground. I did not back away. I looked at the knife. Is that it, Hunter? I asked. Is that how you solved the problem? Hunter wiped the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. He slashed the air between us. You are dead, old man, he hissed. You are dead. From the bottom of the stairs, Sasha screamed, Do it, Hunter. Kill him. Just kill him. Her voice ripped through me deeper than any knife could. It was not a cry of fear. It was a command. My daughter, the girl I had carried on my shoulders, the woman whose debts I had paid. She was not a bystander. She was the architect. She wanted me dead. She wanted the money more than she wanted a father. That scream was the end of Arthur Banks the father. It was the birth of Arthur Banks the witness. Hunter lunged again. He led with the knife. He was clumsy. He was desperate. He swung the blade in a wide arc, aiming for my stomach. I prepared to dodge. I prepared to fight for my life. Then the world exploded. The front door did not just open. It disintegrated. A battering ram hit the deadbolt with the force of a freight train. Wood splinters sprayed across the foyer like shrapnel. The glass windows in the living room shattered inward simultaneously. Flashbangs rolled across the hardwood floor. Bang! Bang! White light blinded the room. The sound was deafening. It rattled the fillings in my teeth. Smoke billowed up the stairs, instantly filling the space with a chemical haze. Police, federal agents, get on the ground, now! The voices were amplified. They were everywhere. They came from the front door. They came from the back. They came from the very walls. Through the smoke I saw the red beams, laser sights, dozens of them. They cut through the haze like lightsabers. They danced across the walls. They swept up the stairs. Hunter froze. The knife was raised. He looked like a statue of violence. A red dot appeared on his forehead, another on his chest, another on his throat. Drop the weapon. Drop it, or we shoot. Hunter looked at the lasers. He looked at me. He looked at the knife. For a second, I thought he would do it. I thought he would try to finish me just out of spite. But Hunter was a coward. Cowards do not die for a cause. They surrender. The knife clattered to the floor. It bounced down the first step. Hunter raised his hands. I did not do anything. He attacked me. He is crazy. A team of men in black tactical gear surged up the stairs. They moved like a single organism, fluid, lethal, efficient. 2 of them hit Hunter. They did not ask him to lie down. They put him down. One shield slammed into his back. His face hit the floor again, right in his own blood. Hands behind your back. Do not move. Zip ties zipped. The sound was final. Another team secured Sasha at the bottom of the stairs. She was screaming, not for me, not for mercy. She was screaming about her rights. She was screaming that it was a mistake. I stood on the landing. A tactical officer approached me. He lowered his weapon. "Mr. Banks," he asked, "are you injured?" I shook my head. "I am fine." He signaled to his team. "Target is secure. Victim is safe." The smoke began to clear. The adrenaline started to fade, leaving my hands cold. I looked down. Hunter was pinned to the floor. An officer had a knee in his back. Hunter twisted his head to look up at me. His face was a mask of confusion and terror. "How?" he wheezed. "How did they know?" I reached into the pocket of my work shirt. My fingers closed around the cool plastic of the black case. I pulled it out. I opened the lid. The tiny red light was still blinking, still transmitting, still telling the truth. I leaned over the railing. I looked down at Sasha, who was being hauled to her feet by 2 agents. Her makeup was ruined. Her expensive dress was torn. She looked up at me. Her eyes were wide. She looked like a child who had been caught stealing candy. "Daddy," she sobbed. Tell them it is a misunderstanding." I did not speak to her. I looked at Hunter. I held the case out over the railing. I dropped it. It tumbled through the air end over end. It landed with a plastic crack right in front of Hunter's nose. The earbuds spilled out. I heard every word I said. My voice was calm. It was the voice of a judge delivering a sentence. I heard the plan. I heard the forgery. I heard the poison. I looked at Sasha, and I heard you tell him to kill me. Sasha's face crumpled. She realized then that there was no way out. There was no lie big enough to cover this. "Those are good earbuds, daughter," I said. "Very high fidelity." Chief Miller walked into the foyer, stepping over the debris of my front door. He looked up at me and nodded. "We got it all, Art. The audio feed was perfect. We heard the assault. We heard the order to kill. It is attempted murder in the 1st degree, plus conspiracy, plus wire fraud." He looked at Hunter. "And we found the servers in your apartment, son. The FBI is very interested in your voice cloning operation." Hunter sagged against the floor. The fight went out of him. He was done. "Take them away," Miller ordered. I watched as they dragged them out. Hunter went first limp and defeated. Sasha went second, kicking and screaming. "Daddy, please. I am sorry. I did not mean it." I watched her go. I did not feel sadness. I did not feel anger. I felt lighter. The weight of the last 5 days was gone. The weight of the last 10 years was gone. I looked around my shattered house. The door was gone. The windows were broken. There was blood on the floor. It was a mess, but it was my mess, and I could clean it up. I walked down the stairs. I stepped over the knife. I stepped over the earbuds. I walked out onto the porch. Joe Gunner was leaning against his Jeep. He was holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one. "Nice throw, Art," he said. I took a sip. It was black, hot, real. "It is over, Joe," I said. Joe looked at the police cars flashing in the driveway. He looked at the neighbors gathering on the sidewalk. Not yet, Art. Now comes the hard part. The trial, the testimony, the cleanup. I looked at the sun rising over the trees. It was a bright, clear morning. "I am ready," I said. "I am Arthur Banks. I survived my family, and I have never been more ready to live." The courtroom smelled of floor wax and stale air. It was a sterile environment designed to strip away emotion and leave only the cold, hard facts of the law. I sat in the witness box wearing my best Sunday suit. My hands rested on the wooden rail. They were steady. For the first time in weeks, I felt no tremors. I felt no fear. I looked across the room at the defense table. Hunter and Sasha sat there in orange jumpsuits. They looked small, without their expensive clothes, without their arrogance, without the veneer of the successful young couple. They were just 2 people who had made a series of catastrophic calculations. They refused to look at me. They stared at the table. They stared at their hands. They were trying to hide from the man they had tried to kill. The prosecutor was a sharp woman named District Attorney Reynolds. She laid out the case with the precision of a surgeon. She did not need to be theatrical. The evidence did the work for her. She played the audio recordings from the earbuds. She played the video from the hidden camera in the living room. She showed the bank logs of the failed AI voice hacks. She showed the forged medical documents paid for with stolen money. It was an avalanche of guilt. Count 1. Conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. Count 2. Attempted murder. Count 3. Elder abuse. Count 4. Wire fraud. Count 5. Identity theft. Count 6. Violation of the Biometric Privacy Act. The list went on. It was a resume of their moral bankruptcy. When it was my turn to speak, the courtroom went silent. The jury leaned forward. They wanted to hear from the victim. They wanted to hear the trembling voice of a father betrayed. They wanted tears. They wanted a dramatic plea for mercy or a scream of rage. I gave them neither. I spoke with the voice of an engineer. I described the load-bearing capacity of a relationship. I explained how stress fractures appear long before the collapse. I detailed the timeline of the betrayal, not with emotion, but with data. Mr. Banks Reynolds asked, "Did you believe your life was in danger?" I looked at Hunter. He finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. "I did not believe it," I said clearly. "I knew it. I heard them plan it. I heard them discuss the mechanics of my death. They did not talk about me like a father. They talked about me like an obstacle, like a stump that needed to be removed." Sasha began to cry. It was a soft, mewling sound. I looked at her. My daughter sat there weeping. But I knew those tears. They were not for me. They were for herself. They were for the life she was losing. They were for the Range Rover and the house in the Heights and the social standing she craved more than oxygen. Reynolds asked the final question. "Mr. Banks, do you have anything you want to say to the defendants?" I looked at them. I thought about the 45 years I had given them. I thought about the tuition I paid, the braces, the dance lessons, the wedding. I thought about the nights I sat up waiting for Sasha to come home safe. "I have nothing to say to them," I said. "Strangers do not have anything to say to one another." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. It would have been faster, but the sheer volume of evidence took time to process. When they came back, the foreman did not look at the defendants. That is always the tell. Guilty, on all counts. The judge was a stern man who had seen too much evil in his career to be impressed by their tears. He looked at Hunter. "Mr. Vance," he said, "you preyed on the vulnerable. You used technology to steal identity and violence to steal a life. You are a predator." He sentenced Hunter to 25 years in a federal penitentiary. No parole eligibility for 20. He looked at Sasha. "Mrs. Vance, you betrayed the most fundamental bond in human existence, the bond between a child and a parent. You watched, you planned, you enabled." He sentenced her to 15 years. As the bailiffs led them away, Sasha screamed for me. She called me Daddy. She begged me to call the lawyers. She begged me to fix it. I stood up and turned my back. I walked out of the courtroom and into the sunlight. I did not look back. Not once. The next week, I put the house on the market. It sold in 3 days. A young couple bought it. They were expecting their first child. They walked through the rooms talking about where to put the crib and what color to paint the nursery. They did not see the ghost of a man being dragged up the stairs. They did not see the hole in the wall where Hunter had kicked it. They saw a future. I was glad for them. But I could not stay. That house was a monument to a lie. It was a museum of a family that never really existed. I took the money from the sale. I added it to the trust. I added it to the portfolio. I had one loose end to tie up. My grandchild. Sasha's son was 3 years old. He was currently in emergency foster care. The state asked if I wanted custody. I sat in my empty living room and thought about it for a long time. I thought about raising a boy at 68. I thought about looking into his face and seeing Hunter's eyes. I thought about the toxicity that ran in that bloodline. I made the hardest decision of my life. I declined custody. I am too old. I am too tired, and I cannot save everyone. But I did not abandon him. I set up an irrevocable trust. The money from the sale of the house. The money I had saved. It all went into an account he cannot touch until he is 25 years old. It is enough to pay for college. It is enough to start a business. It is enough to give him a chance to be different. I hired a law firm to oversee his care in the foster system, to ensure he goes to a good family, to ensure he has braces and dance lessons and a safe bed. But I will not be his father. I cannot be. That part of me died on the stairs. The day I handed over the keys to the house, Joe Gunner pulled up in his Jeep. He was towing a 30-foot Airstream trailer. It was polished aluminum. It shone like a silver bullet. "It looks good," Art Joe said, leaning out the window. "It looks like freedom," I replied. I climbed into the passenger seat. I had one bag, my clothes, my books, and the picture of my late wife, Martha. That was all I kept. "Where to?" Joe asked. "West," I said. "I want to see the desert. I want to see places where you can see the horizon for 100 miles. Joe put the Jeep in gear. Jeep in. We rolled out of the subdivision. We drove past the warehouse. We drove past the courthouse. We hit the highway. I rolled down the window. The wind hit my face. It felt clean. People tell you that blood is thicker than water. They tell you that family is everything. They tell you to forgive and forget because you only get one mother or one father or one daughter. They are wrong. Blood is just biology. It is just a sequence of DNA. It does not guarantee love. It does not guarantee loyalty. And it certainly does not guarantee safety. I looked at Joe. He was humming a tune along with the radio. He was a man who had stood by me in the fire. A man who had risked his life for me, not because we shared a last name, but because we shared a code. That is family. Family are the people who stand with you when the walls are falling. Family are the people who pull you out of the wreckage. Family are the people who never ask for anything in return except your company. I touched my chest pocket. It was empty. No earbuds, no wiretaps, no lies. I took a deep breath. I am Arthur Banks. I am 68 years old. I have no house. I have no daughter. But I have the road. I have a brother beside me. And for the first time in my life, I have the truth. And that is enough. Did you like my story? Let me know in the comments where you are listening from. If you enjoyed this story, please support the channel by liking and subscribing so we can bring you more stories like this one. See you in the next story. With love and respect. This experience taught me the hardest lesson of all, that the title of family is earned through loyalty, not inherited through blood. For years, I thought my duty as a father was to provide even when it meant being treated like a resource instead of a person. But I learned that you cannot save people who are determined to destroy you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop protecting the people who hurt you and start protecting yourself. Peace is not found in a crowded house built on lies. It is found in the silence of a life lived with integrity. Do not set yourself on fire just to keep ungrateful people warm. If you believe that respect is more important than DNA, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of justice served. Tell me in the comments, would you have forgiven them or did I do the right thing? Until next time, stay safe and trust your instincts.